sick.
Good evening. How are you?
BBC Radio Manchester.
Oh yeah, you alright? It is Saturday night. That means it's Allan Beswick in the late night phone-in from 10 o'clock, which has just happened, till 1 o'clock, which is just under 3 hours away. If you want to take part, the number's 0800 218 2255. George will be taking your calls, Jack's making it all happen, and Jane's in charge, and I'm just the idiot on the end of a bit of a wire, talking rubbish into the early hours. So if you want to join us and take part in that exercise, once again, the number's 0800 218 2255. The government, we are told, is about to spend £300 million on a new Channel migrant detention centre. Clearly they're preparing for the fact that despite all their strange ideas, they're not going to stop the boats. Good news is available. Strawberries are now 60% heavier than they were a decade ago. The bad news is that they taste of sod all. And the Mail, daily of course, today accuses the BBC of changing a photograph from a white hand dropping its voting card into an election box to a black hand. This must be the work of the BBC's secret black hand gang. Someone should black up and that mugshot of Trump. That'll stop his loony fringe supporters buying the T-shirts. Who of that lot is going to walk round with a black person's face on their pullover? Answer? Not a one, I suspect. We, you and I, the rest of us, we need to change our insults. Using a male insult at a trans woman is thought to be very offensive. So I suppose knobheads out then. Prince Andrew is fighting to get his armed bodyguards back, which is quite right and proper. Somebody's got to protect women from him. And in an effort to further increase our knowledge of the growing number of cancers, the NHS is working with Morrisons. More reasons, that lot, yes. To get them to put cancer symptoms listed, labels if you like, in the underwear that they sell. Which is interesting. I just imagine a future conversation. Oi, what are you doing down there? I'm reading your knickers. Fair enough. An industrial tribunal has ruled that saying please in the workplace is not a requirement. My mother would be swivelling in her grave any day now. The chairman of said tribunal will get a strange stinging sensation on the back of his legs as my mother's ghost gives him the clap he so clearly deserves. And Sir Geoff Hurst, yes, him, and quite a few others, to be honest, have asked why Wills wasn't at the final. I offered the answer to that last week. It was just girls, so they simply couldn't be asked. Neither could his dad or the PM. At least they didn't send Andrew, or even that Spanish fella, although he did go and got himself a snog, which has led to all kinds of problems. And Allan Jones, walking in the... that one, yeah. Allan Jones was stopped, this is scary, by a machete-wielding thief who demanded his £17,000 Rolex watch, saying, give us a watch or we'll chop your arm off and get it anyway. I've got to be honest with you, I'm with Jonesy on this. I would have handed it over. But then, what the thief wants from me, I don't know. I mean, what's he going to do with a 20-year-old £15 seconda? How important is the time that one wears a £17,000 watch? Or is it nothing to do with the time? Is it really just a demonstration of look how rich I am? What we used to call when I was a kid, swanking. Come to think of it, anyone wearing such a watch is clearly an utter swanker. Cracking song. Rolling Stones, of course. It's high time large organisations stop using computers. We've seen what's happened in Northern Ireland. Well, now the Met Police admit, this is breaking news, by the way, but the Metropolitan Police admit that officers' details are at risk of exposure after their warrant card supplier has been hacked. Dear God. If you want to know a secret, buy a computer. Use it right, you'll get every buggers. 0800 218 2255. How do Keith?
Well, hello, Alan. It's about the sporting events of last weekend. Ladies' performance in the World Football Final deserves to be commended, and to finish second in the World Final has to be admired. But I don't think it can compare with the performance of the Liverpool lass in the pentathlon. I mean, this girl won the world title, and I don't think she's got the credit she deserves. I'm talking about Katarina Johnson-Thompson. Coverage on television were first class, but the newspapers didn't say much about her. And I think an individual award is far greater than to win an event where a team is included. Like in athletics, apart from the relay races, you have to win things completely on your own. And she has done it twice. She's a world champion twice. And I would think the training is far more stringent than it is for any football team. And she's the best women in the world. It's the same in boxing. It's you or him. There's no hiding place, and I think the people of Liverpool can be proud of this girl. There's no doubt they are, and I'd just like to know what you think about it.
I mean, it's just an incredible achievement, considering also that she's been out poorly for quite a while, hasn't she?
Right,
so she's come back from. I mean, it's very difficult when you're a top sports person. He said as if he knows anything about it, but it's very difficult to lose form or to be ill or what have you, and then come back. You only have to look at Emma Raducanu. She did awfully well in the American Open, and without wanting to be too offensive, that has done sod all since. And she's having to get up. You know, I'm not criticising her. I couldn't get anywhere near what she did, but that's the reality of it. And this woman has been at the top, for whatever reason, ceased to be at the top, and is back again. So you're right. It is a massive achievement.
Yeah.
The idea about the papers that they ought to do more on it. I mean, it sounds daft, but it doesn't make an interesting read. You know, she ran quite quick. She swam quite fast. You know, she was the fastest. She came first. There's little to write. It looks spectacular. You know, the 100 metres on the telly looks amazing. I watched some of the 200 metres with the blokes in it by accident the other day because I find athletics marginally interesting. Yeah. But I watched the race and it was over in, 4 minutes? Well,
yeah, but I mean,
once you've got
all these events, you have to think about all the events she's took part in. She's pretty good at everything, hasn't she? I mean, she's not a swimmer. She's not a swimmer.
No, but there's no diminishing the fact that what she did was brilliant. What we're really discussing is the newsworthy of it. Newsworthiness. Okay. And it's not that newsworthy. Yes, she won, and that's newsworthy. If she won by dubious means, that she didn't, but if she did, that's newsworthy. If she fell over and got beat, that's newsworthy. But, okay, who won? Katarina Johnson-Thompson. Right. Next. You know, you've kind of done it once you've said who's won. So it's not fair, really, but that's the nature of it. It looks brilliant on the telly, don't get me wrong. It is fantastic to watch.
Yeah,
it's like cycling.
Really good, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we get the result. I mean, Channel 4, is it 4 or 5? One of the no-mark channels, anyway. But Channel 4 or 5 or something show the Tour de France. And it's really bloody boring.
I think so.
I'm glad we agree. Well, to come back to your point about this woman, Katarina Johnson-Thompson, to be a top cyclist is so demanding, and then you've got to work. You've got to come first in the end, but you've got to come first about 9 times, and you've got to beat hundreds of other performers. And quite frankly, when you and me watch it on the telly, we think, well, this is boring. I wish they'd get to the end. Oh, they will in a fortnight's time. You know, I mean, so I'll come back in a fortnight. I'll see who goes over the line first, and then I'll sod off again. And it's a bit like that with athletics, isn't it? It's not. It's not reportable beyond who won. Fabulous to watch because you don't have to watch for a long time. But what did you think about those pole vaulters? The 2 women pole vaulters who they played off against each other. And then they agreed that they would share the gold medal.
Yeah.
That's fascinating, isn't it?
It is, yeah. They've to be commended, haven't they? Yeah.
It's just weird. I mean, you know, we used to do that at school. You know, because we couldn't do replays and all that in school rugby matches. If you got to the final and it was a draw, you had the cup for 6 months each. I guess that's what they're going to do. But yeah, I mean, we've got to take her hat off. She is absolutely amazing, isn't she?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, she is, yeah.
Good on you. Good to talk to you. Have a good night, Keith. How do Malcolm?
I do, yes. Ticket offices, I gather they're still striking, unfortunately. The RMT, and one of the causes is the attempt to close ticket offices for railway stations. Now, I was over at Chester railway station recently and I discovered something that's a bit interesting, which is that the Welsh railway, however it's translated, I'm not that good at reading Welsh, is not closing. The Welsh government are not closing their ticket offices. So it makes you think, are we having a two-tier railway system in this country? If an attempt was made to close ticket offices in England, and yet in Wales they're not closing them, that's what I've been told.
Well, you may or may not be correct. I've no idea whether they are or whether they are not. But, I mean, the government would say we're not closing them. And I believe even the Welsh government would say the same. The government doesn't run the railways, does it? It'll be the companies that are responsible that will close them.
Well, I mean, the government clearly has a significant role in the railways, and they can tell if they wanted to. They could direct. I mean, the problem is that it's not just about the ticket offices. It's about the general disruption that we're getting in the railways. It's disrupting our economy. I mean, for example, this Tuesday, I'm going to London. The original plan was for me to come back on the Friday, but because of ASLEF, or one of the rail unions, whichever one it is, my ticket has already been cancelled for the Friday, so I'm coming back on the Wednesday instead. Now that you could see is probably a good thing, good for the economy of the north, but not necessarily good for the economy of the south. I could have been spending money there. And that's the problem. All these people are having their rail journeys disrupted because of the government's failure to intervene and settle the dispute. It's disrupting the economy. And I've heard, I mean, this was some months ago, that the rail minister said that the cost of settling the dispute would be less than the economic damage that's been done by the dispute. So, it's another example.
But that's only the monetary cost, isn't it? There are other costs that the government has to consider. I'm not suggesting they're making the right decision or wrong decision here, but they have to decide other things, like if they give in to one lot, does that not encourage another lot to then decide, well, the last lot won, so we're going to have a go. And so whilst the economic balance that you referred to may well be as you described it, it's still the case that they have to consider other things. They're running a country, not a railway.
Yeah, maybe, but they have a... the fundamental argument against closing ticket offices, that only being part of the railway dispute, is that we cannot rely on smartphones for the solution to all our problems. Firstly, a lot of people don't have smartphones because, as you know, that's obvious. And if you lose your smartphone, for example, when I'm in London, I lose my smartphone because one ticket is on one and another one was issued by, the one coming back was issued by a proper ticket office. If I lose that smartphone, I could... obviously, in this case, I'm talking myself the wrong way around. But if I lose my smartphone before I go, because that's the one from Piccadilly to Euston, I can't get on that train. Unless there's a ticket office open, in which case I'll go and buy one, because I want to make that trip, because it's an important trip.
But then you've bought two.
Yeah, I have, yeah. But you would do that if you lost a ticket anyway, whether it's a paper ticket or a smartphone ticket or whatever. but it's making people heavily dependent on a smartphone. Now, I don't think that's necessarily a good thing in itself. I think it's good to have a backup, to have a plan B or even a plan C. What happens if you lose your bank card and your smartphone? Well, the plan C is cash, which is another thing that some people allege
but then if
that
you've
businesses
lost,
are trying to get rid of.
If you've lost your bank card, you might not be able to get any cash.
Yeah, but you might have cash on you, that's what I'm saying.
Well, you might have, yes, but of course if people go towards a digital economy, they won't have cash on them. Lots of people don't carry cash anymore.
I know, but the point is, it's good to have these backups, these alternatives to the one system, the one size fits all, particularly for disabled people.
Isn't it the case? I mean, let's deal with one thing at a time. Isn't it the case, and I don't use the trains enough to be sure, that when you get on the train without a ticket, there is a guard, and if the ticket checker or whatever, comes along, you can buy a ticket there and then.
You can, if there was a ticket, if there's no ticket office, you can, and that's if there's a guard, because in the early part of the dispute they were talking about getting rid of the guards as well. But if you are getting on at a big station like Piccadilly, Euston, whatever it is, and they say, "Where's your ticket?" They then fine you. They say, well, you should have a ticket. You've gone on a Piccadilly, wherever it is. You haven't got one. You're paying the fee, whatever it is, 100 quid or whatever.
But of course,
as well as the price of your ticket.
To pursue that, yes, that may well be the case if there is a ticket office at Piccadilly or some other large station. But if there isn't, and you get on the train, then the checker will say, the inspector will say, why didn't you buy a ticket at Piccadilly? You say, well, actually, there's no ticket off it. Oh, that's correct, yes. So you're in the same position as a tiny little station that doesn't have a ticket office. So, I mean, but
the point also about it is that ticket office...
We can't say, look, we need to spend money on these premises and people just in case somebody loses a phone.
That is not the sole reason. Ticket offices also do other functions, like if you want to know when the last train is, they'll tell you that. They'll tell you lots of things. And also, from the point of view of a blind person...
I was on a platform the other day, not travelling, but seeing somebody off, and there are boards there, big white boards with all the train times on it.
If you're a blind person, then it's useful to have your guide dog take you to the ticket office. Not that I am a blind person, but I'm well aware that there are disabled people who are strongly campaigning in favour of keeping the ticket offices open.
All right. Well, your view clearly is that they should stay open. Good on you, Malcolm. I'll do Shafiq.
I'm okay. Russia former general, army general, his name is Prigozhin, is a die in plane crash. I'm not saying the Russia President Putin, this is bravery for him. Is a bravery for Russia President. When he come to God house, when Christmas coming, we all go in church. So come to the main God house. Which God house? God Messenger Abdai made it. Then peace be with you. It is very important, Mr. Putin, come to God house and surrender to people. It is no good for fighting with Ukraine. Ukraine land, you can't take it by force. One day this land, you go back to Ukraine. Thank you.
I'll do Sean.
Good evening, Alan. How's your day been?
It's been all right, thank you.
So what's been dominating headlines today is that stupid FA from Spain giving that Jenny the monster a kiss on the lips, and she did not consent to it, and she said she didn't like it, and it was disgusting. So he needs to resign.
He said he's not going to.
He kept saying it, he's like, I'm not going to resign, I'm not resigning. Like, I don't care how many times you say it, mate, you're going to resign, because if you don't resign, the women's team can't play again. So So you're a stupid idiot. So you resign, otherwise you're going to ruin football, women's football for everyone. So just get lost and do one.
Okay. Get lost and do one is possibly good advice. Good on you, Sean. 0800 218 2255. Was it such a big offence? I mean, I've watched it, I've recorded it and watched it in slow motion, and the footballer, and she's entitled to say, the footballer said, I didn't like it, I found it outrageous and infringement and all the rest of it. But she wasn't looking grumpy when she walked away. Now, if you've just won the World Cup, it's going to take a lot more than a snog off an Al Gimmer to get you to lose your smile, isn't it? So, what do you think? Should he go? Should he go? Is he just evidence that Spain is a really, really sexist country? I mean, did you see the bit where Sean just quoted him saying, I'm not resigning, I'm not resigning, I'm not resigning? And there were people in there, members of the Spanish FA, whatever they call it in Spain, applauding him. Blokes to a person. Well done, well done, well done. Bit weird. I'll do Simon.
I agree, actually. I don't think, looking at that footage, at the time, she didn't seem too perturbed, did she?
Well, again, I say it's difficult to get the smile of just winning the World Cup knocked off your face, isn't it?
Well, there is that, yeah. I think back to the 80s when I was asked to attend a party in Oman when I was working abroad, and we went to some English friends, and I didn't know she was actually married to an Omani guy, and I gave her a quick peck on the cheek as we went in, as did everybody else who knew her. But he took offence at me, her husband, because, he thought I was a threat. And he actually wasn't very nice to her when I went home. And he was all right with me at the time, but that was a bit of a funny one, wasn't it?
Well, I suppose when in Rome,
Yeah, but, I mean, there was no... I didn't know her that well, really, so maybe I shouldn't have given her a peck on the cheek. But there you go, it's a different era then, wasn't it?
I know I wouldn't have done in the 80s or any other time. I'm the other way. I prefer not to have any physical contact. I don't even like shaking hands.
Yeah. Anyway, that's not why I came on. I came on to talk about nostalgic telly, Alan. What's your first memory of telly when you were a kid?
Oh, crikey.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
It'd be black and white, would it, or not?
Oh, absolutely. Dear God, yes. They hadn't invented colour then. I remember our first telly.
When was it? 47? So you'd be
48.
When did you have your 48. First telly? Yeah, 48.
I know when we got our first telly. It was 1964, and it was the Rome Olympics, and I was lying on the settee with a smashed up foot from playing rugby. My toes are all mangled from getting stamped on at rugby, so I could hardly walk. So I was watching the telly, and I remember it because it was the Olympic Games in Rome, and I think it was the 5,000 metres, it might have been yards in those days, was won by a bloke called Bruce Tuller, and Bruce Tuller ran barefoot. And in those days, they weren't the tracks like they are now. And he won it for England, or Britain, whatever the team was, Bruce Tuller. And I remember sitting there feeling sorry for myself with a mangled foot, and this bloke's running in the Olympics barefoot. I've never forgotten that. So that's when we got our first telly.
But so did you have, because it was 1964, did you have BBC Two straight from the off then?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't remember.
In 1964, didn't it? And we didn't have a UHF telly. We had a VHF telly, so we could only get BBC One and ITV. But we could actually also get, I think we lived in Duckingfield at the time, we could also get BBC One Wales on Channel 6, as well as BBC One from it was actually from Leeds where we got it from. For some reason, my mum wanted the aerial in the loft, and there was a cross aerial for BBC and a and a funny one for ITV, which like vertical bars with a line across. And that one was supposed to get, when BBC One Northwest started from Winter Hill with Stuart Hall, because we had Stuart Hall to begin with, but in 1962, Manchester and Leeds split up. So we got actually BBC from Leeds for the local news, not Manchester, even though we lived in Greater Manchester area as it is now. It was in Cheshire then, Duckingfield, but it's a bit weird that. But I remember all sorts of... Don't you think today's kids program? I used to love watching telly with my parents, like a community. And on a Thursday night, you'd end up watching the whole of BBC One because they had like Top of the Pops, they had Tomorrow's World, Two Ronnies. You know, you'd watch the whole evening on one channel. There wouldn't be anything like that ever happening today, would there? With 9 million channels to watch.
Well, it's certainly much more diverse, but surely a lot of choice is better, isn't it?
Well, I in a way, but I like the community side of my dad and us and people at school in the following day discussing what we saw the night before. If it's that diverse, you're not watching the same things. I suppose you could suggest programmes for others to watch, but you're not all watching them at the same time. But that's just the way technology's developed. And
well, of course, if the kids at school say, "Did you see such an?" If the kids at school say, "Did you see such a thing last night?" No. What channel was it on? And they tell them, then they can go home that day and watch it anyway because it'll be repeated on one of the plus. So but no, you're not all sat down together.
If you're all watching the same programme that night, you can all discuss it the following day. But if you haven't seen it, you can't. But it's just one of it's the way the media's developed, really. But what is quite nice is when my mate says, like, did you see such and such? I really recommend it. And what's nice about this new technology is you can stop it, go and have a bath, come back and carry on where you left off. I do like that aspect of it, don't you?
Rather depends how much you need a bath, doesn't it, Simon?
If you doze off and now where we up to? You can just spit back
spool it back.
And find it. Exactly.
Yeah, quite. I spent the first 5 minutes of the England versus I've forgotten who they were playing now today. No, the rugby game today on
today, sorry. Yeah.
Amazon telly. Yeah, watching England versus Fiji, and the first 5 minutes of the game I couldn't watch because the subtitles that you get when the commentary's on, and it's always behind. If you're watching a pre-recorded program, if you're watching a pre-recorded program, it's in sync. But if it's a live program, it's out of sync, and it was driving me mad. And every time I tried to go back to turn off the subtitles, it took me back out of the Apple, and then I had to come in again, and then I could. But at least I could tell it when I eventually got it done. I could say to the television, "Play me the match from the beginning." And it did.
Oh, yeah, that's good, yeah. That's a fairly recent thing, I find, with these things. It didn't let you do that to begin with, but it does now, with a lot of programmes. I enjoy that, actually. Like, if you come in at 6:15 and you've missed the beginning of the news, you can start it from the beginning, and then fast forward through all the rubbish.
So it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? You get more choice, and for that, you lose the sort of forced community watching.
Well, I've said to your research, I don't think kids' programmes are as good as they used to be. We have some real variation of stuff, I remember, like adventure stuff. I mean, am I just missing that because they're all on their dedicated channel now? Because if you're an adult, you don't see many kids' programmes.
Some of the children's story. If you talk to youngsters, as I'm required to do from time to time, because they come and visit, they know a lot more stuff than we do, and they get that from various things, including the modern version of children's telly. Now, it's very colourful, the live stuff and all of that, but I think it's fascinating, and I think it's right for the kids of today.
Yeah, okay. I used to like things like Thunderbirds when I was a kid, and I used to like Casey Jones and all these, even Mr. Ed. You remember that? Talking up.
Also, of course, and no one can talk to a horse. Of course, that is, of course, unless the horse is a famous Mr. Ed. Go right to the source and ask the horse. He'll give you the answer that you endorse. It is, of course. Talk to Mr. Ed. Yes, I do remember Mr. Ed. You may have gathered.
We're perfect, Alan.
I know. I know. My childhood was spent.
And all that kind of stuff. I used to love that.
One of my favourite programmes as a kid was Hiram Holiday. Do you remember him?
What's it called, sorry?
Hiram Holiday.
Oh, I don't remember that at all.
I don't remember any of the storylines, but his claim to fame was he used to fence villains off with his umbrella.
Oh,
so there you are.
I remember Bonfire Night in 1967. It was a Saturday. You could probably look up the date if you go through the programmes, but I got hit by a firework, and I'd seen Doctor Who on BBC One Northwest, and my dad said, "Oh dear, best take you home, lad. Is there anything I can get you?" I said, "No, can I watch the repeat of Doctor Who, because it was on BBC One Wales, sorry, at a different, slightly later time. So I watched the same episode twice. Once on BBC One and once on BBC One Wales, and it was the one with the Yeti. So whenever that was on, and I think that one got, they taped over a lot of Doctor Who's, the BBC, didn't it? Do you remember?
I think they did with lots of programmes in the days when it was expensive. Now they're all digital.
I think one of them was Blankety Blank. They taped Blankety Blank over Doctor Who. Can you believe that? The original pressing. But they found a few in a transmitter building in Kenya or something. So they have got odd bits, and I think they cartoonise, I think they call it, some of the other ones, because they've got the sound but not the picture. So it's quite weird what they can do, but brilliant.
Oh, really. It's very peculiar. Anyway, Simon, we must move on. Thank you very much. How do Tony?
Hi, Alan, you okay?
I'm very well, thank you.
You were talking about the referee, the Spanish girl and the manager kissing.
Yeah?
What's the problem with it? What was the problem?
Well, the problem is that a woman, and a man for that matter, is entitled to be asked whether they wish to be kissed.
Well, her arms were round him as well as his round her.
Well,
and he said it was consensual.
Well, he says that, and
consensual
she says not. He says, she says that. She says it wasn't. He says it was. Others will make their judgments. But you ask what was wrong with it. The thing that is wrong with it is a person is entitled to decide who will and who will not kiss them at all, but particularly on the lips.
Okay. So now we're going to go back to the sexism and women and blokes can't mix. So it should be a woman managing the team.
That isn't what I just said, and it isn't what anybody says. Men and women do mix, but quite frankly, you do not kiss somebody on the lips, whatever their gender and your gender, without their permission beforehand. It is, if you like, it's the early stages of foreplay.
Oh, God. They were on another planet. They just won the World Cup. He could have kissed them all on the lips as they all come off the pitch, and it wouldn't have mattered because they were just in at that moment, if you know what I mean.
It may well have mattered.
To who?
To whoever was the one being kissed against their wishes or without their permission.
So what harm does it do, a kiss on the lips?
It isn't about what harm it does. It's a breach of a person's rights.
The world's going mad.
Well, it is, Tony, but if we get rid of some people like you, it'll improve. How do George?
Hello, Alan. What I'd like to speak about, Alan, is this Loch Ness monster.
Oh yes.
Surveying the water and sending divers down and all this. I can't understand the point of this. I can't. It's been going on for years and years and years, and it's never happened before. And it's going to cost quite a lot of money to get it done. Surveying it all.
Well, it's probably not costing any of yours or my money, George, but yes, there's some clown somewhere paying something for it, but why not? What harm's it doing?
What harm? I can't understand what harm. If there is a Loch Ness monster, it's done no harm to nobody, so why mess around with it now?
Well, so we just find out. Somebody a long time ago suggested that it existed, and lots of other people have jumped on the bandwagon, and Scotland have made an absolute blessed fortune out of it. So, it's a bit of fun. And if somebody's stupid enough to spend their money looking for it, let them get on with it.
OK, Alan, thanks a lot.
Good on you, mate. The Loch Ness Monster. 0800 218 2255. If you don't know the story, there's another. I don't think they're actually. I mean, George said sending divers down and things like that. I'm not sure that that's the case. They're inviting anyone who cares to watch and film and photograph the surface of the loch, which is interesting because I've driven round the Loch Ness. It's a big beggar, I tell you. 0800 218 2255. I do hope they find one. How do, Lindsay?
Oh yeah, hello. I just found about the programmes that are on of a night time, like dramas. They're still young enough for children to watch. Like they're doing drugs in them and shooting people. I just think it's wrong the way they got them on this early, especially with the drugs.
There's a sort of set threshold, isn't there? 9 o'clock for things that are considered not to be suitable for children.
Yeah, but like the parents are not watching the children all the time. In fact, I think the parents are watching the programmes themselves and not realising the effect that it's going to have on the children.
But I mean, you're probably right in that parents aren't being as careful as perhaps they should be, but that's their choice, isn't it, really? Providing the programme is not breaking any of the broadcast rules, and if it's got things in it that ought not to be broadcast before 9 is broadcast after 9, then eventually we have to say the parents make the decision, because we when I say we, I mean you and me, we can't control, if you say, well, not 9 o'clock, then make it 10 o'clock. Eventually you can make it 1 o'clock in the morning. Some parents will still let the kids stay up, so you just have to get rid of anything that might not be suitable for a youngster and just never put it on the telly. And telly would be the worst for that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you should put like Disney programmes on and stuff like that, just to mind you the car.
But until when? When? I mean, at 1 o'clock in the morning?
Well, I never let my children stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning.
No, but if we have to make the rules somewhere, don't we? And we have to say a time at which we think, right, from now. I mean, I always say of this programme, it's a programme for grown-ups. I don't want kids listening to this. Unless they get a diary. But I don't want kids listening to this. It's a programme for adults. We have adult conversations. Now, this kind of programme is unlikely to be of any interest to a 10-year-old, one hopes. But a programme with excitement in it and drama and the like, the kid might be interested in it. It's then up to after 9 o'clock, it's then up to the parent to regulate what their children will or will not watch, surely.
Yeah. All right, then.
Have a good night. Bye-bye. I'll do Jessica.
Hello. I'm Spanish footballing business.
Oh, yes.
No one's mentioned he was actually holding her head, so she couldn't have pulled away if she wanted to.
No, indeed he was. It was that... it was weird. Holding her head was almost as bad as the kiss itself, because he was...
sort of smacked her bottom.
Well, he didn't. He just patted her on the back. But
fairly low down.
Yeah, but it was still the back. I watched it, as I say, in slow motion a few times, and it was just wrong.
Yeah, but, we're always told, don't make a fuss, dear. Like in the cinema when somebody touches your leg. Get up and move. Yeah. And I thought, well, why the bloody hell should I? So you just get your hand off my leg. You pervert.
Quite.
And I used to get told off for making a fuss.
Yeah. But it's interesting that he did that, and I wonder whether he then thought, oh dear, I shouldn't have done that, because he didn't do it with any of the others.
Yeah.
He just did it with that first one. And it might have been a spur-of-the-moment thing, and had he said so afterwards and gone over to him and said, look, I'm awful sorry, I was carried away in the moment, I am really sorry, it would have all ended. But he's now saying, no, she said it was okay. Well,
But, if they call you sweetheart and darling in a patronising way, it is annoying. I know they're not actually perverts or anything who call you that, but it is irritating. But we're told, don't make a fuss, dear. I mean, Jeremy Irons, the actor, he said that women should take a pat on the bottom as a compliment.
Yeah.
I hope he takes a slap across the face as one.
But it is interesting. When I'm in a restaurant or somewhere like that and somebody comes on, can I help you guys? And I think, I'm not a guy. I'm not a Yank. And my wife most certainly isn't a guy. I mean, what the hell?
Goyim. It's from Goyim.
I know where it comes from, but that's not how they're using it. I'm not in a kosher restaurant. I'm in the local Burger King or whatever. Yeah. What can I get you guys? Nothing. I'm not guys.
Well, I have a simple rule. If their ears don't listen to my mouth, my fist will explain it to their teeth.
Well, that's out of my remit, Jessica, but good to talk to you. How do Aileen?
Hiya. I used to live on the 9th floor of a 10-block story flat, and up above was John and his wife, and she was lovely, she was always well made up, and he was a terrible drinker, and just because it's coming up to Christmas, I wanted to tell you this. Anyway, she'd been with them. They were in their 60s. I was in my late 30s. And she left him in the end. No one could believe that this woman left him. Months went by, it got worse and worse. He got more messy. And one night, the doors bang, banging all night up above. And I couldn't find the caretaker. I wasn't going up there on my own. I found someone the next day. The door was still banging. This guy that lived in the flat. And we went up. And he goes, go on then, go on in. I said, no, I'm not going in. He might be dead. You go in. And he wouldn't go in. In the end, we found the caretaker. He went in. He wasn't there. He'd been out and he'd left the door open. And what happened one day, I'm coming out. I just got all dolled up, dressed to go out. I'm coming down on the thing. It was coming to near Christmas. He comes in, John, and he's on his own now. His wife had left him. He's absolutely bladdered again. Snot coming down his face and everything. He grabbed me, kissed me. I can still taste that snot on my face. And he went, happy Christmas. Love. Happy Christmas, love. And John, I hope you're still alive and I hope your wife found you, because I know you meant nothing by it but a happy Christmas. I had to go back upstairs and wash my face and my hair. That snot went everywhere. But I did have a happy Christmas that year, mate. And I just wanted to tell you, you want to be one of the guys' girls, well, get on with it, because they're always kissing each other these days. Thank you very much.
All right. Here endeth the reading. Thank you very much, Aileen. How do Ted?
All right, Alan, just to say, oil in the world, the oil in the world.
The oil, did you say?
Yeah, the oil in the world. It's going to run out in 47 years.
So they say. I mean, they keep finding more, but they do keep predicting the day when it'll cease to be.
Well, they've got, plastics comes from oil, plastic comes from oil. Now they've got fruit stock. Fruit stock makes plastic. like rapeseed oil and that. So I think all these fires that's going on, it's making land to grow oil on.
Yeah, there are other forms of oil that can be used. I don't know whether that kind of oil can be turned into plastic, but most of it at the moment doesn't go that way, because oil out the ground, I believe, is cheaper to produce. But yes, I suppose if it turns into oil, then it can be plasticized. But I'm not a scientist, so I don't know.
Well, it says in there, what I read about, it says that America is running into it. Because, like I said, in 47 years, all the oil in the world's going to run out. And that makes plastics. So plastic is going to run out.
Yeah, plastic will run out, but more and more people are thinking that we ought to stop using and therefore making plastic anyway. So we perhaps need to find alternatives to plastic. What they might be, I've no idea, but there will be people right now, scientists somewhere, working on alternatives for plastic. We've already got alternatives for plastic bags, haven't we? We've now got disposable, what seems like plastic. I know my compost bin that the council provides with bags. The bags, they feel like plastic, but they're cellulose. They will turn back into the earth, as it were. So perhaps we can do it, expand that production process into, plastic bicycles made out of cellulose. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, all natural resources will eventually run out.
Within 4 billion years from now, the earth is going to warm up and be like Venus.
Well, it may well do so. It won't bother me much, but it does appear to be warming up presently at a faster rate than they thought, and Canada and North America and elsewhere are having terrible fires. But good to hear from you, Ted. 0800 218 2255. What will happen for? I don't like these songs where they can't decide how to end it, so they just keep going and let the studio fade it out. I mean, come up with an ending, for crying out loud. It can't be that hard, can it? Never written a song in my life. Really, no, but come on. It's supposed to be your job to stop it. On my way home from the swimming pool the other day, I went to get my papers like I do. And I tend to cast my custom around different places. And I went into a petrol station, because I was getting petrol as well. And I went in, and I went to pay, and the chap behind the counter greeted me with, "You're sweating an awful lot, sir. Are you okay?" I was okay. I just, as usual, hadn't dried myself properly. I never do. I get out. I said, what the hell? I've got short hair. It'll dry. And so the water was still dripping off me wet head. But I just instantly thought, what a kind thing for the man to say. I mean, some may say, how rude. But no, had he just said, "You're wet," or "You're sweating," but he didn't. He said, "You're sweating a lot, sir. Are you okay?" He was concerned, because profuse sweating could be is a symptom of some conditions, and quite serious ones, instantly serious. I was okay, as I say, I just hadn't dried it properly. But I thought, how caring, because he had no idea how I was going to react. I could have said, "You cheeky," couldn't I? But I just thought, what a generous thing to do. And it gets me from time to time, the kindness of strangers. It catches me short. I every time I see it. I mean, we have the tabloid press telling us that the world is vile, don't we? We have us lot, the news and all that, telling us the world is vile. Xenophobia and all that, all over the place. But we humans, in essence, we humans, in the main, we're all right, aren't we? The kindness of strangers. And you do have to look beyond the act sometimes, look beyond the words, to work out why that person is doing or saying what they say. Because it could be a kindness. There used to be, I don't even know what it was advertising. There was something on the telly, and there was an old lady walking along a footpath. It was an information film or something else. I don't know what, but it was on frequently. It's one of these 2-minute vignettes that you get. And there was an old lady walking along, and they showed you this fella who, to be honest, looked a bit rough. He didn't look like, your friendliest neighbour. And he was heading towards this woman at a pace. And the whole of the film was geared to make it look like he was going to assault her. She was carrying a large handbag, and it looked like he was just going to run past, grab the handbag, and skedaddle with it and rob her. But no. We then saw that he was actually going to dive on her and basically rugby tackle her. And when he'd finished rugby tackling her, a dirty great big weight had fallen from some building project operating above, and he'd just saved her life. And it stuck with me that the first impression you get, the first sight, you think, oh my God. But in the end, this rather rough-looking chappie, who you'd have thought he's about to rob her, was actually saving her life. He'd seen it and put his own life at risk. And I just thought, what a clever piece of film. And I don't know what the message was. You might remember it, in which case you can tell me. But I don't know what the message was that they were conveying. But it was fascinating. As I say, you're sweating an awful lot, sir. Are you okay? I consider to be a question of kindness. 0800 218 2255. How do John?
Hiya, Alan.
Hiya.
Just regarding what happened over in Spain there, I'll just give you an instance. What happened to me? It was 1999. Manchester United were playing in the European Cup final. Yeah, and 90 minutes had gone. 91, maybe 92 minutes, and suddenly United equalised. Well, I started kissing this Spaniard next to me. And I felt so embarrassed afterwards, and I'm with the two lads there, and I said to them, I said, what the bloody hell am I doing here? Kissing this fella. I didn't know him, he was a stranger. And then suddenly, Solskjaer got up and he scored the winner. And I started kissing him again. I couldn't believe it. It was just a spur of the moment thing, it happened. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah,
and
it
this
does
is probably what happened to that guy in Spain.
Well, maybe, but did you apologise to the Spanish guy?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. It was just one of them things that happened, you know what I mean?
But you weren't representing your country. You weren't on television to the world.
No, but that doesn't matter. You know, it was just a spur of the moment thing that happened.
Well,
I was just ecstatic, you know what I mean? The team were 1-0 down. We were in injury time. And then suddenly, United drew. So, to me, I thought we were going into injury time. And then suddenly Solskjaer got up and he scored a winner. So I got me sympathy for the guy.
Indeed. Had somebody said to you, you shouldn't have done that?
It was just a spur of the moment thing. I felt really bad about it afterwards. In fact, it was with me two hands. And I said, I felt bad about it. And I said, what the bloody hell am I doing here, kissing him? But
now, let me ask you this then. You felt... Okay, but you felt bad about it, first and second time, I suspect. The emotions took over, and you did that. You felt bad about it. Why did you feel bad about it?
Because he was a complete stranger.
So what? Why did you feel bad about it?
Because I didn't know the guy.
But that's irrelevant. Had you known him, would it have been okay?
Well, I suppose it would have been,
Because you were with your mates. You were with your mates. Why didn't you kiss one of them? I mean, again, I say, why?
He was sat right next to me, you know.
why did you feel bad about it? Let me offer you an answer. You felt bad about it, possibly because you knew you ought not to be kissing people without their permission.
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
Well, if that had been a woman over whom you have a degree of power, such as you're a senior figure in the FA and she's a footballer, then haven't you got an obligation to be rather less than emotionally, instantly driven? And this wasn't
I know where you're coming from there, Alan, and I think that guy should have maybe apologised, but it's just something that happens on the spur of the moment, you know.
Well, murders happen on the spur of the moment.
I know they do, yeah.
People take out a knife and stab people on the spur of the moment. There's no defence to say it's the spur of the moment.
Yeah.
But had he said, I'm awfully sorry, I shouldn't have done that, it really was, you know, I was just so excited about it all.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And why didn't he kiss the second and the third and the other 15 of them, however many there were, on the lips?
Yeah.
Why didn't he kiss those on the lips? Did he think, I shouldn't have done that? And once he had done it, thought, well, she's only a bloody woman and I'm a Spanish man, so sod her. Or was there something else? You know,
I don't know. Maybe
if he did say, "Will it be okay if I kiss you on the lips?" Because that's what he's claiming. It was consensual. She agreed. Did he ask all the others?
Yes, I know.
So
maybe
you felt bad about kissing the bloke
next to me, but maybe he did it and then felt to himself, maybe I shouldn't have done that, you know.
Well, if he did feel maybe I shouldn't have done that, he shouldn't have got on his high horse and said, I will not resign. What is all the fuss about?
Well, I can sympathise with him there because, like I say, Alan, you know, his team's just won the World Cup, and it's just
had it happened the second the final whistle went, had he turned to the woman next to him, if there was a woman next to him and kissed her on the lips, then you could make that case. It was just like you, the exuberance of the second.
Yeah.
But this was at the collection of the cup. It happened 20 minutes. He's going to have to resign. He's got no choice now, because the whole of the team are saying, we ain't going to play Spain. We ain't going to play for Spain as long as he's there, so he's going.
Well, yeah, I think it's going to work. It is going to happen, that. But, you know, if you think about it, like what I did, it's just a spur-of-the-moment thing.
Well, as I say, so is murder sometimes, and we don't defend it there, saying, sorry, I lost control for a minute, you're on, that's okay then, set him free. Yeah, but what about my dead husband? Doesn't matter, spur of the moment. Doesn't matter.
No, but Alan, you're going off the subject a little bit there, you know.
Not going off the subject. The subject is, does lack of control for the spur of the moment exonerate one and allow one to do whatever they please at that moment?
Yeah.
And is the answer yes or no?
Yeah.
Is one entitled to do what one pleases at an instant simply because you want to celebrate something?
Yeah. I just think
does it make it okay?
that it's all been taken out of proportion, and you know, I just think it should be forgotten about. Really, that's my view.
Well, it will be forgotten about when he's been sacked.
Yeah, well.
Some people say it's a shame we haven't still got hanging, drawing and quartering, but there you are, what do I know?
Yeah.
Good on you, John. I hope you enjoyed the couple of snogs anyway. Have a good night. How do, Sean?
Good evening, Alan. Hello again.
Good evening. Hello again.
So basically, I heard what you're saying to that guy there about a couple of snogs. So basically, I don't know why that first play did walk away, but basically, what I saw is he physically, aggressively grabbed her head and like kissed her really tight, and then as he let go of her, he started smacking her back like really hard, that's aggressive because she was smiling as she walked away, but she lifted him up before she kissed him, didn't she? To give him a hug, so she must have enjoyed it.
Well, you may say that. She says she didn't and didn't want it and claims that she never gave permission, so all the evidence points to a not.
Can I ask you about something else?
Of course you... Yes?
Did you hear about Lucy Letby that killed the 7 babies, the stupid woman?
Well, I don't know about her being a stupid woman, but certainly a murderess.
Yeah, she shouldn't have been able to look after the babies in the first place because their families didn't know that she was going to do that, so she just she wouldn't even come out of the cell to face them in court, so that just shows what kind of evil person she is, and she deserves to die in prison. And she was crying in court, so she was crying in court because she felt sorry for herself, but so what? You're stupid, and you know what you've done, so go die in the prison.
Well, that's more or less what will happen. She will die in prison.
And she'll probably get beaten up by inmates after know what she's done.
That's possible. Some might say likely. I hope she doesn't, because it's not the job of prisoners to hand out punishments. They're as guilty as she of their offences as she is of hers, so we don't want prisoners handing out justice.
How long are you doing the show for? Are you doing it next year, the show, like you're doing now?
I certainly won't be doing it next year. I'll be doing it until...
Who's taking your place after next year?
It won't be next year. I won't be doing this in 2024. When I'll stop doing it, I don't know. And I don't even know who will be taking my place, if anyone does.
Well, you're a great man, so it'd be sad for you to leave the job.
Well, everybody has to leave eventually. I'm a very old gentleman. But thank you, John. Have a good night, mate. How do Glenn?
Hello, I'm Ian Porrick.
I'm doing very well, thank you.
What I want to talk about, Alan, is the police. If somebody attacks you to steal something from you, or you dial 101 and 999, they don't do anything. All they give is a crime number on. So why is that?
Well, a lot of offences, they haven't the resources to investigate. So they issue a crime number so that should a person make a claim off an insurance company, the insurance company know that at least the crime has been reported to the police.
Recently, I'll not give in names, but I've been verbally abused by somebody. I'm not saying this. And I've reported to 101, and there's nothing done on. They get a crime number, and it's happened twice. It's happened 4 weeks ago. I'm not saying this. I mean, it's happened on Thursday. I've been verbally abused with spat at, and the police don't do anything. Why is that?
Well, mainly because they haven't the resources to deal with what they consider to be minor crimes.
Yeah. Another thing, Alan, I see men in toys speeding around the streets of Accrington, men smoking drugs from corporate work, and it's not nice, Alan. And it's just evil, Alan. And what does that on?
Well, I'm afraid it's the same answer. The police are there to prevent crime if they can, to solve crime if they can, but they can only do what their resources will permit.
Yeah, well, as you know, I'm friends with a police officer, they like detective. I'm not giving his name. And he's been out car parks, he had work where I work to see him off, yeah. And, I'm not going to, but we're not supposed to have problems in Ashton for 13 years. And the police now seem to be doing more against antisocial behaviour. And it is an ongoing problem. And these
it's an ongoing problem in lots of places.
They're very intimidating. And I'm doing my job. I ignore them and I'm getting intimidated on the car park. Well, I'm not going to say where we're. I'm more you know. But when I go to work, I'm getting. It's not on me all the time. It might be half an hour in one shift. And the police are cold and the kids have gone. The police can't catch them. What I said that on.
Oh, well, I say what I have said a few times already.
Yeah. Another thing, somebody I know, I'm not getting them, I've had to go to a care home at 79-year-old. I'm just in Clumley down there. And the care home's not far from where it's that 5-minute walk. And what do you think of care homes on? Do you think they're nice places or they're strange places?
Well, I'm sure they're all different. I wouldn't want to be in one, however good it is, but I'm sure they're all different. I had a relative who was in a care home, and I didn't like the lifestyle it afforded him, as it were, but it was a very nice home. The staff were lovely and delightful and all the rest of it, but he was still basically in a health prison.
Like this person, no, Wednesday care on Wednesday afternoon. I went to see her on Wednesday night. It's a family. I'm not giving you this, but they seem like nice places, and this person are in bed in an Olympic room, and nice clean room and everything. And the other people are in there, ladies, and they seem nice places, right? You know? But,
I mean, the nice ones are exactly that, nice places. But as I say, they're basically just health prisons.
Do you think they're like hospitals, then?
Well, they're like them, and they have a lot of beds with bedding and caring staff, but they're not hospitals. They're like them.
Yeah. Well, I like that. I went to one of the ways out, and the staff seemed very friendly, and the patients, and I went to see this person in bed in a care room. And I said, I'm not saying this because it does just back it up for me. But it's very upsetting to see your close family in a care home, and I'm not saying it, my dad just backed up for me now and then, and it's so upsetting. And I'm not working Sunday mornings. I'll go and see this person at care home, and it's just so emotional. It doesn't sort of me yet what's happened, and it's like, I'm not busy at the supermarket working, I haven't got time. I'm not working tomorrow, but sometimes I work 6 days. I haven't got time to think about anything. I'm not busy in my job and playing. It's like, but see, this person's like 79-year-old, you know, which is quite an old age, you know. And I just thought
someone like me who's 75 considers it less old than perhaps you do, Glenn, but good to hear from you. How do Peter?
You had a lady on earlier talking about the watershed. Actually, she wasn't talking about the watershed. She was talking about programmes, inappropriate programmes for children being shown before the watershed. The problem is, today, though, with the iPlayer, you can go and look at any programme from earlier in the week, whether it's past the watershed or not. And there are parental controls on there, but not all parents use them, of course. And if you get a really clever kid, he can override those and go to the default, and off they go. I remember a few years ago when I had a Freeview television, if you left the television on overnight on a Sky channel, it wouldn't reset the default, so you couldn't actually put the parental lock on it for whatever reason. Or sometimes if you unplugged it and plugged it back in, that parental
it is one of the consequences. It's one of the consequences of what's called progress, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I suppose it is. Yes, but there is that problem today. But going back to, you had a previous caller on about early telly, and you said you were watching, what was it, somebody barefooted?
Yeah, Bruce Tuller.
I remember my first memory of telly was Play School. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
You're a bit old for Play School at the time, presumably. But
I was a bit old for it. I'll tell you one thing. I met a bloke, one of the actors who was in Play School.
Well, not Brian Cant. No.
I don't think it was. Anyway, I met this person.
Anyway, it doesn't matter, yeah.
And I was with somebody who knew him, so, it was that.
Yeah.
And I said, don't you feel a bit, doing that, all that, this is a house, this is, and all that caper? He said, well, you do a bit, but it's just another acting job. And I said, yeah, but... And he said, they pay me £300 a day.
Is that what it was? Crikey.
And I said, have they got any vacancies? He said, I'd kill you first.
I remember reading that there was a problem. I think when because Play School was actually on BBC Two first, but we couldn't get BBC Two. They repeated it on BBC One later in the day, I think. But it was on about 11 o'clock in the morning on BBC Two. But the very first programme on BBC Two should have been a news programme, and there was a blackout, I think, at Battersea Power Station. Oh. And the power supply feeding BBC Two didn't work, so it never went on air on the day it should have done. It had to go on the following day. So the first programme actually on BBC Two was Play School at 11 o'clock the following day, and then the programme that should have been shown the day before, the guy started off with a candle because it hadn't got out the night before, and he blew the candle out. Dennis Chewy, I think it was, and it was so funny seeing that because there's a clip on of that on YouTube, I think, and it's very, very funny. But me and my mum used to watch Play School, and they had a clock on it. And I said to my mother, that clock's wrong. She said, why? I said, because it's 1:30, and on a real clock, when it's 1:30, the second hand is halfway between the 1 and the 2. And on Play School, it was 1:30, and they had the second hand but on the 1. So we wrote to the BBC, but they never changed it. That's true, isn't it?
Well, I don't know how true it is, but they often don't change things just because somebody points out the errors.
The obvious, yes. And at least it wasn't Roman numerals. and I also remember having an argument with my granddad about the number 4 Roman numeral on a clock, because most clocks have 4 eyes. They don't have 1 V, do they, on the clock for 4?
I can't talk about most.
Some, anyway. I know mine, I'm looking at mine now, and it's got 4 eyes. And the reason it's got 4 eyes is because 1V and V1 look very similar, don't they, as the thing goes round the dial. So I presume that's why they've got 4 eyes. Yeah, so you know it's definitely a 4. But it's quite interesting, that, because a 6 is actually upside down, isn't it?
It depends how they do it, but it could be, yes.
Because it should be V1, and it's actually IV upside down on my clock, so there you go.
Yes, well, it depends. Different clock faces operate, or if you like, annotated differently.
Yes, but the majority of the Roman numeral clocks are upside down, which is quite weird, but there you go.
Well, again, I have no idea about the majority. I feel sure there must be some of one and some of t'other.
Yeah. Well, my outside clock is t'other. It's got 1V and V1, so there you go. So you're right, as always.
Good to talk to you, Peter. 0800 218 2255. If you wish to join us, you can. You may have gathered by now that you can talk about anything. We've talked about a little bit about the kissing. We've talked about the Loch Ness monster, or the lack of it, you might say. We've been reminded that the oil will run out one day, as will the gas. And we've talked about Putin, who should go to church because it solves all his problems. And we've also talked about the way that Katarina Johnson-Thompson, who's done incredible work at the athletics meet in Budapest, isn't getting quite the recognition that perhaps she'd be entitled to. 0800 218 2255 to join us. You can talk about any of that, or indeed whatever's on your mind. How do, Sam?
Hi, Alan. Do you wear a watch?
No.
Have you ever worn a watch?
Yes.
Which hand do you do you put it, left or right?
I put it on my wrist rather than my hand, but the left.
Left, yeah. Why does most people have their watch on the left? Like, they're odd.
I suppose it comes from the days when people used to have to wind them, and most people are right-handed, so the dexterity of the right hand is greater than the dexterity of the left, and therefore winding it or adjusting the time of it would be better done with the right hand than with the left. So you put the watch on the left hand. Probably.
Yeah, that's the best explanation I've got. Because I used to ask other people why, because I can't put it on my left hand. It feels weird. It feels extra weight, and they all say, "Well, that's how it is." But then obviously that's a good explanation.
But you will know then if you wear your watch on your right hand side, and you have to adjust the time. It's very hard to do with your left hand because the winder, as it were, is on the right, generally.
Yeah. But most people don't know that. They just say, well, that's how it's done. It's always, everyone has it on the left.
Well, Sam, what they're basically saying is, shut up, nobody cares. I'm not saying that. That's what they're saying. Who cares? Shut up.
But they think I'm weird to have it on my right.
Well, no, you're not weird. That's the way you like it.
Yeah, because it feels really weird. It feels really weird when it's on the left-hand side. It just feels heavy and just feels like there's a lump of something there, and it just doesn't feel right for some reason. So that makes sense. But on the right, it feels good. It feels alright. Yeah. So I was going to, that kissing. So I saw the picture and he looked rather disturbing and uncomfortable. Then when I looked at the video, it did look like it was a spur of the moment thing on the video. But when you look at the picture in slow mode, it is a bit disturbing.
But how can you tell from a video that it looks spur of the moment? Spur of the moment is in the mind of the person doing the action, isn't it? He might have planned it last week. He might have been lying in his bed thinking, if they win, the first one that comes up, I'm going to give her a big smacker on the lips. Whether she likes it or not, I'm going to hold her head in my hands and go and give her a big face wash. You don't know that it's spur of the moment.
Was that the goal scorer, the winning? Did he kiss the winning?
I've no idea. I've no idea whether it was the goal scorer or not.
Yeah, but let's put it this way: the video is less disturbing than the picture.
The video is a picture.
Huh?
The video is a picture. It's a whole pile of pictures.
I know, but it was like a kiss, a 1 second kiss, and then when you look at it, it doesn't really look that disturbing in the video. But then you're like, what the hell? What the fuck? Oh, what is that?
If a punch in the face just takes a second... Oh, it only took a second. Yeah, but you broke my bloody nose. Yeah, but it still only took a second. What are you whining about?
Yeah. Well, if you ask me, it did look disturbing, but the video looked less disturbing than the picture.
Fine.
But, yeah.
Do you think the football executive who did what he did, whether disturbing or only partially disturbing, do you think he should be forced to leave his job?
If she's complaining about it, yeah. Why not? It is her privacy.
Well, no, you can't finish off with why not. I mean, you have to make a judgment. Do you think he should be sacked or not? Whether she complains or not, surely hadn't. Whether she complains or not doesn't affect whether what he did was right or wrong, does it?
Yeah, I don't know, Alan. I haven't got a clue.
Okay. No, that's right. There's a lot of that goes on. Usually on this side of the picture. But good to talk to you, Sam. How do Tony?
Hello, Alan. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Hello.
I'm a first-time caller, so I'm a little bit nervous. I've been listening to you for about 5 years. I got quite a few people who I got on board because you're so funny and stuff. But that's not what I've rung for. I've rung for to ask you. Good. I know you don't take to that sort of stuff. We got any pet hates, Alan? I'll just give you an example. I've got a mate who I ring because I'm a truck driver, so we chat as we drive, obviously on loudspeakers and stuff. And every time I ring him up, he seems to be sucking on a sweet, and you hear them going, and it just, I just cringe, and I'm too bloody nice to say, will you stop eating when I'm talking to you? It's just, have you got any pet hates?
I don't think so. Hate's a strong word.
Well, it's just a saying, isn't it? It's just a saying, pet hate, isn't it? I don't know where the pet comes from.
Yeah, I mean, most of my life is spent being, couldn't be arsed.
Right, so nothing gets on your nerves.
Most things that are going on around me, if I'm not enjoying them, I just ignore them. I don't care. Get on with what you're doing. Yeah. As long as it's not physically affecting me, I'm not bothered. So I'm just trying to think. I mean, when driving, I'm not keen on people who use their mobile phone when driving. So we have to include you, Dave, Tony, even though.
You're not coming through the speakers. It's just coming through the speakers.
And how are you making contact with your friend? On a mobile phone, correct?
No. I just talk to.
On a mobile phone. On a mobile phone.
Yeah. Yes, but
whilst driving.
I don't touch.
Whilst driving.
I don't touch the mobile phone.
But you're engaged in a conversation rather than 100% of your attention on the road.
I suppose, yeah, I know.
There's no suppose about it, that's a fact.
Yeah, I'll put myself right in it there, didn't I?
Well, no, you carry on doing what you like until you kill a kid, and then you'll think again.
No, I'm fully engaged in what's ahead.
No, you're not. You've already conceded that you're not.
Have I?
Yeah. You can't be engaged in a conversation with your friend and getting annoyed about him sucking his sweet while speaking to you, when what you really ought to be doing is giving the whole of your concentration to the road.
Right, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I know. But you'll only agree with it properly when there's a kid under one of your wheels, and then you'll say, I really shouldn't have been doing that. You know what annoys me now? Being in prison. Have a good night.
My God, don't even...
Have a good night. How do Ian?
Hello? Is this Alan?
Hello. It is.
Right. I'm getting older in my age. And I was pretty...
We all are.
I don't understand what this LGBTQ++ means. What does that mean?
Lesbian, gay, bi, trans. What were the others?
Q++. They call it that.
Q+. I run out then. All I know is that the various different elements of our society have taken over a fifth of the alphabet.
Yeah, that's true. It's very confusing, this. People, I don't know why people don't just live their lives and that's it. Why do they have to impose what their viewpoints on other people?
Perhaps what they're trying to do is to stop other people imposing their viewpoint on them. Only last week, 2 gay blokes were beaten to a pulp outside a pub in London. By all intents, Well, indeed. But it happened, and you must have heard about gay bashing in the 70s, and it's not that long ago when being homosexual, as it was more usually called at the time, was against the law. And so people who have
Why do they have to be so aggressive in their viewpoints, though? That's what I mean.
Well, in the same way that everybody else that has a viewpoint, those viewpoints are often populated by people who aggressively demand their position be heard, whether they're straight, lesbian, gay, bi, trans, queer, green, black, blue, tall, small, whatever.
Yeah, no. Why don't people just live together?
Well, yes, that would be wonderful. And if it wasn't for two blokes getting beat to a pulp outside a pub, I might agree with you. But unfortunately, we don't all live together happy.
But you're assuming those two blokes beating outside the pub were nice people. Not necessarily nice because they're LGBTQ plus or whatever.
I'm neither saying that they're nice people. I'm neither saying that they're nasty or otherwise. What we do know is they were gay, and what we do know from the police reports that they were assaulted in the way they were because they were gay. They weren't beaten up because they weren't very nice people.
Did they cause the problem in the first place, though? A lot of gay people seem to walk around like they own the place.
You don't want an answer, so that's okay.
Right. Goodbye.
Yeah, would be. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us, you can. If you're as thick as Ian, it'd be a lot more fun. 0800 218 2255. I was just about to talk to somebody called 77443, but I think that was a typing error. How do, Tracy?
Hello, yep. How are you doing, Alan?
Awfully well, thank you.
Oh, you sound it. You do sound good. You're too young to retire, let me tell you that. You're too short. But okay. I'm not creeping round you, so don't get your head... No, I'll tell you why I'm ringing you, Alan. This situation in Spain, you look at it, right, and honestly, I think people are going too far here. I think that was pure affection, pride, everything. I mean, when he kissed her, that could have been kiss of life. I'd have been that player, me. If I could pick a man up like that, I could put him down if I were offended. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't think anything went wrong there. I think it's the making the noise about it. They're distracting from the fact that Spain actually won. And that's what we should be talking about. Them girls played brilliant. Well,
they certainly played better than the English team by a long, long chalk. But does that give the right to a random man to kiss a woman on the lips?
Not a random man. Sorry, I don't mean... he's not a random man, Alan. He's the president of the football thing. She knows him. He knows her. In his art of affection, it's in his nature. You know, he's most probably Italian or something. They look pretty. I might go to Italy.
If his nature is such that he can't control himself when presented with a woman, then perhaps he needs to do something about his nature.
Oh, you're not telling me if that weren't a male team, he wants to kiss. It's the bloody best score. Listen, Alan.
Well, first of all, if it is not a sportsman, he's a clerk. If it was a man, it wouldn't be any less offensive.
Well, let me take you back a few years, right? Go back to when you were younger, and everywhere you went,
I was young.
Every time
I was younger yesterday.
Something, well, yeah, just yesterday. You know, people used to, you know, pull each other's cheeks, give them a kiss. It could be your auntie, it could be somebody else's auntie. It could, you know what I mean? It was like, oh, well done, and yo, and It were all quite normal.
Yes,
I think we're going.
But it wasn't my boss. It wasn't my boss, and it wasn't my teacher.
Alan, she picked him up. She could have knocked him out if she wanted to. She walked away from. She grabbed him first. Now he hasn't turned around and said she grabbed me. He could get her done. Really, if you think about it, the way the law is and the political correctness. I think it was just a natural moment. I think she was quite happy with it until everybody else interfered and said, well, that doesn't look good because everyone's going so political. You know what I'm saying? It's like all the other ridiculous things.
Right.
Well, what do you think?
Well, I think he should be pilloried.
Oh, do you?
I think it's an utter disgrace. I think it is sexist and unacceptable.
Well, why don't we ask his family, get the people who know him, because I think he's being portrayed as something
Tracy, even if his Auntie Falada told me that he was all right, I wouldn't believe it. He still kissed a woman without her permission. I don't think that's acceptable.
Well, I'll tell you what, if the Pope came up to you and kissed you and you complained, everybody'd have something to say about that.
Well, they would, but if the Pope came up and kissed me, I'd tell him. If the Pope came up and attempted to kiss me, I'd tell him to stop.
Listen, if he'd have grabbed one of their private parts, something like that, you could understand it. But she picked him up. Do you know what I'm saying? She brought him close to her, and he carried it
Tracy, on. I understand all of your words, and I'm grateful for your further explanation.
Yo. But it's a sad world, Alan, if people can't just be naturally affectionate without everybody reading into it. Now listen, if you see two dudes
Tracy,
doing that,
if you get on the bus, Tracy, if you get on the bus tomorrow and the bloke sat next to you just leans over and kisses you on the lips, will you say, "Isn't it nice when people are affectionate"?
It depends who it is. To be honest.
Okay, well, at least it's nice that you're fussy, Tracy. Have a good night. How do Ben?
Hi, Alan. How are you doing?
Awfully well, thank you.
Good. Can I just ask you a quick question, Alan? You know, you were discussing with the lorry driver when he's on the hands-free, his attention's not on the road. Does that same rule apply if you're listening to music or listening to the radio? Because you can say that technically your attention, no?
No, because it's a passive event, whereas a conversation isn't.
Well, if it's on the hands-free case, they're not passive because you're still...
No, it's not passive.
You're still focusing when you're listening to...
When you're listening to music, it's a... it's like the rumble of the wheels on the road. It's just a sound. You're not engaged with it. However, if you are in conversation, then you are engaged with it. The man who invented the Mini a long, long time ago, prior to that he invented the Morris 1000, designed it so that it didn't even have a radio. And when people were in a man called Alex Izigonis, and when people were in the car with him, he wouldn't even allow them to converse. He said, "I need to drive the car." Now, we've come a long way since then, and research has shown that people engaged in a telephone conversation have less attention left to operate the vehicle than if they're involved even in a conversation in the car. There's something very odd about the telephone. But research has demonstrated that, research has shown that it does have a different effect. It engages the brain differently for reasons that I don't understand.
Do you know, it's very interesting, do you know the bloke who kissed the lady on the lips? Would it have been a big deal if he just hugged her? Is it a bigger deal because of the fact that he's physically kissed her, or is it still unacceptable if he hugged her?
Had he just hugged her, had he kissed her on the cheek, I suspect there would be no fuss. The kissing on the lips in Western society is regarded by many as what you might call I called it earlier the first step of foreplay, which is probably overstating it, but it's seen as a quasi-sexual act rather than an act of non-gender affection.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I guess it's more of an intimate act, isn't it, as opposed to just a hug or a kiss on the cheeks. But yeah, well, it depends what she thinks, because she keeps changing her story, doesn't she? From what I've read, at first she's saying it was, I forgot the word she used, but it sounded like she wasn't really too fussed, and then all of a sudden she said she was really upset. Because towards the beginning of the week, she,
I've no idea, but frankly...
But her story's definitely changed over the last week.
Well,
but I totally agree with you. I think it's totally unacceptable for him to be kissing anybody on the lips.
The action is what I'm against. What her opinion of it would be used as evidence, if anything, I suppose. But frankly, whether she welcomed it or didn't welcome it, what matters to me and to many others is whether she gave permission. As far as I'm concerned, if she didn't give permission, then it shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I'd be extremely pissed off if it was my excuse my language, if it was my girlfriend or sister or it happened to be honest. But yeah, okay, no problem. All right, lovely. Very interesting about the telephone, because I was thinking sometimes when you're listening to music, you get very involved in it, don't you? Sometimes. But
well, I'm sure you do, but it is a different. As I say, a different relationship, if you like.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Cheers, Alan. Lovely talking to you.
And you. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. Pick up your phone, have your say. Talk about absolutely anything. There's a song about anything. Anything. Extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. I've been listening to the gadget I play my music from in the car on the odd occasions when I listen to music has started to play it in alphabetical order by performer. So I put the radio on the other day, or the gadget, the radio machine thingamajig, the audio element of the car, and it was playing a Beatles song. So I'll listen to this. I like the Beatles a bit, so I had a listen. And I left it running. And I was driving quite a long way, and so there were about maybe 8 or 9 Beatles songs, tracks, will you? In sequence. No particular order other than alphabetical. And I thought, that's not John Lennon. And that's not Paul McCartney. And I was surprised at how many songs the Beatles released that were actually lead singer George Harrison. I know, you're right, yes, you knew all the time. That's fine, smart Alec. But I didn't. I just thought, by default, it would be Lennon and McCartney leading the voicing. But no. Harrison did quite a lot. Strange. You know, I can't think of them now. But I just found it. I know that when they sent their demo tape to Decca with the 5 tracks on it, I used to have a copy of this. They sent their 5 tracks on it. And 2 of them, if I remember correctly, were sung by Harrison. Wow, 2 out of the 5, which is quite some. So I don't know. Yeah, I know it's gibberish, but it's my gibberish. That's all I've got to offer. How do airlines lose your luggage? I don't see how that can happen. It's never happened to me. It's happened to my wife, but she used to fly a lot when she was a journalist. She used to fly a lot. She used to do stories all over the place. And she had her luggage go missing, and you know, it turned up about a week later, and we had to go on the airport and collect it and all that, and you know, they paid for all the stuff that she'd lost and all that caper. And while she was away, she had to buy clothes, and they refunded the cost of that. But how do they lose it? I mean, you try and get an undeclared piece of luggage on a plane, and no chance. If you're one of those idiots that gets on the plane smashed out of your mind, and before it takes off have a row with the steward or the stewardess, and they call the cops and you're dragged away in handcuffs, the plane won't take off until they've found your luggage and got it out the box. And you just think, then how come it can go to the wrong place? Because that means if your luggage has gone to the wrong place, it's gone a plane it shouldn't be on. How does that happen in this world where you can't even, get a case on at the last minute? Oh no, we've packed it up now, we've had it. You've had it, you can't do that. And yet they lose them. I ask because the quantity of luggage lost by airlines is at a 10-year high. Now, it might be the same proportion, and there are a lot more people flying, with all these 10-bob flights and all that caper. So it might be that. But at 10 years, I can't understand how they can lose one case. It's just daft. But who cares? 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, we're here till 1 o'clock. It's now getting on for 10 to midnight, so you've got 70 minutes in which to join us if you wish. You can talk about absolutely anything, we don't mind. So 0800 218 2255. Meanwhile, beautiful 2255. I'll do Anthony.
Oh, good evening, Alan.
Good evening.
Yeah, I just wanted to just go over something that's happened to me recently. Because I tend to write to politicians, nationally and internationally. And I'll be a bit discreet about this because I'm on BBC Radio, and I was told by, let's say, a person from central government in London to, be nicer to politicians, don't be so critical. And sometimes I'm quite positive about what they do, and I try and encourage them to go the right way. But, I didn't really know what to make of this. Someone comes up rolling up to your house and says, oh, I'm from so-and-so service and all this kind of palaver. And you think, and, yes, we either live in a country that has free speech or it doesn't. And if we go down the road of, some people... I mean, you're quite a critically minded person, and certainly locally, in the northwest area with local issues and things. But I'm thinking, well, so are we going to go down to Eastern Europe in the 1960s, Russia or China, where freedom of speech is kind of often frowned upon.
Well, it's certainly frowned upon by those in control. I feel sure quite a lot of the people in control around here are not keen on it. But we don't in this country have pure freedom of speech. It is always limited and restricted by various things, if only the libel laws. So we don't have
the libel laws are fair enough, as far as they go, but...
They may well be fair enough in your mind, and who's going to argue with you, but they aren't. They are evidence that we don't have pure freedom of speech.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're getting at.
There are consequences of saying the wrong thing in the wrong place, and some might say rightly so. And, you can't... there are certain things you can't even say. For example, if you work in a confidential industry, you can't reveal the secrets of that industry just because under the freedom of speech. So there are...
Yeah.
It isn't absolute freedom of speech, but we are freer than many other countries, for sure.
Yeah, I go along with that. I mean, you've got to be careful when, you do a wedding speech, for instance, as the best man, which I've done twice, and you can't say, my very good friend John, he actually preferred his wife's, new wife's, best friend better than the wife,
Well, you can. You wouldn't be considered the best man speech performer ever, and you may not be friends anymore, but there's nothing wrong with saying that.
But it's not illegal. But I don't want to do another best man speech again. I mean, I've known people too well, and you just got to think.
I'm interested by your. I mean, best man speech. Who gives us stuff?
Sorry.
I'd want a fee, but the idea that you've been told to be nicer to top politicians, why so? You are entitled to be less than nice to them if you so desire.
Well, I think I'm usually, especially now I'm a bit older and a bit wiser, I'm quite, fair-minded. I always say, these are the positive things you've done in your policies. And it might be the Prime Minister or whoever, or the leader of the Labour Party, as it usually is. And I'll say, but you're going wrong here. I mean, I've gone on this radio talk show about the NHS, and those people, the nurses and the doctors and etc., work the bollocks off for relatively not very good money compared to politicians. Even if you're just a standard MP, you get £75,000 plus expenses. Now, if every nurse got £75,000 plus expenses to travel, to park even, I mean, where I live, near Arrow Park Hospital in Clatterbridge, nurses and doctors have to pay for the parking.
But of course, I just think a nurse has his or her job until they don't want it anymore, really. Whereas a politician has got it for 5 years.
Usually, if they behave themselves, isn't it?
Well, but they're up for grabs with no longevity in their role, and so they're only guaranteed's overstating it, but the most they can expect is 5 years.
As a guarantee, yeah. No, okay, I see what you're getting there. And, there we go. But the NHS is losing doctors and nurses left, right and centre. And, it is a bugbear of mine. I don't want to go on about it particularly, but I think that needs to be sorted out properly. That's one for Radio London, I guess. National Radio.
Radio London isn't national radio. Radio London is BBC. Radio London isn't national radio.
Oh, what I mean is BBC Radio 5 Live after 1 o'clock when you've decided to retire to go to bed.
Well, I don't make that decision. That's decided for me. 1 o'clock is the time. Good to talk to you, Anthony. How do Russ?
Oh, hi, Alan. Yeah, last time I was talking about you mentioned your dad who was at Arnhem. And I felt that, you've said it in your little film on YouTube as well, I think your dad was a bit unfair on himself when he said we felt we ran away from Arnhem. I'll go through the history. I don't want to bore everyone with it, but basically it goes like this. 10,000 paratroopers and glider troops dropped in Holland. 2,000 paratroopers were all that remained, and they were in a pocket 3 or 4 miles outside Arnhem. There was all the resupply missions had failed. They tried to get some troops across the river It couldn't be done because the river was treacherous at that. In 1944, it was nearly impossible to get reinforcements over. So really, the only thing he could do was get what remained of the paratroop elements out of Arnhem. I thought your dad was very unfair when he said we felt we ran away. Looking at it through the history books, there's only one way they may have not run away. They blame 30th Corps for being too slow to reach Arnhem, to reach the paratroopers. They got the blame for many years, or part of the blame, General Horrocks. When 30th Corps got to Nijmegen, which is I think it's about 12 miles from Arnhem, the artillery got a fix on Oosterbeek, Arnhem. So whenever the German armour, which what they were up against, was attempting to annihilate the paratroopers in Oosterbeek, the artillery stopped them, so that saved them. Maybe with the artillery they could have held on to Oosterbeek a bit longer. I doubt it, in my opinion. And the other thing that saved them was the Poles. The Poles dropped 3 days later a place called Driel, just across the river. And when the Germans saw more paratroopers, they panicked and they held back from attacking Oosterbeek. So I think your dad was a bit hard on himself when he said we ran away. I don't think so. I think there was no option but to get what remained of the troops over the river. That's my opinion of it, you know.
That is your opinion, and he was there and gives his.
Yeah, fair enough. And he was there. You know who was there? Did you ever watch Family at War?
No.
Years ago. It was a series in Liverpool, Family at War. Well, Colin Douglas, he was a well-known actor. Is it Colin Douglas? He was also there. He was at Colin Douglas, he was in the headquarters. But anyway, you were saying to me that not many people are interested today. Well, I disagree with you on that, Alan, as well, because basically, if you'd have said that to me in the 70s, I would have agreed with you. It was waning, people were losing interest. But there is now a healthy interest. You only have to look at the books. Every historian, everyone is writing about Arnhem, funny enough, you know. It's unbelievable. Dilip Sarkar, he writes about planes. He's took his time to write a book on armour. Anthony Beaver, he's another guy, he's written a book. So I feel there is a healthy interest in the Battle of Arnhem, and I would like it to be put back on the curriculum of all the schools. If that was it ever today, I don't know, but
was it ever on the curriculum?
I doubt it. I mean, I done the First World War.
No, it's all right. When you said I'd like it to be put back on the curriculum, that implies it was previously on it. But you're now telling me
no. I doubt it. No, I think it's been. You know, I mean, I was in school in the 60s, and it was all First World War or before it was. I actually took my O-level in Second World War. I was allowed to do that, you know. But I mean, Arnhem is. I'd love you to go to Arnhem because the people are wonderful. Every year on the anniversary, they do the walk. They do the 9-mile walk from the 8 or 9 mile walk from the dropping zones to the town. They're wonderful with the veterans. The veterans, there's not many left now, but they used to stay in all the houses. And there's a museum, Hartenstein, and there's a lot going on there. And they have every year they have military vehicles who do the route, you know, what 30th Corps done. So I feel there is a healthy interest, and it hasn't been forgotten, you know.
Well, it's time it was.
No, I don't think so. And how can we learn if we forget? How can we learn? I mean, look at history today.
We can. I mean, remember it as a historical incident, along with the rest of the Second World War. Remember what went on in the concentration camps and all of that.
Yes,
Remember
of course,
that.
yeah, but it's too much,
lest we forget is quite an important thing.
I'll tell you something I experienced.
What we don't want to do is to put all that. What we don't want to do is to put all that on the youngsters of today. Let them get on with their lives. Those men and women. Those men and women fought to give the people who were left a degree of freedom.
I agree with you.
Let us not diminish that freedom by putting Russ, I'll just shut up. You say what you want to say.
Yeah, and I know I'm a big gob as well. No, what I'm saying is I experienced
not as well.
I experienced something in Holland, and basically it was a museum, and in the museum there was a part of the Battle of Arnhem, where the Americans crossed the river. Robert Redford in the film, and all these little children come in with the teacher, and they walked past all the Arnhem, and they went to the Holocaust part of the museum, and I feel sometimes too much emphasis is on the Holocaust, because today it's Holocaust connected with a lot of things today, and I feel it's a little unjust ignoring that part of history. That's how I feel, really. They're a little bit, and some of the veterans, I've heard them say, I've heard them say in the past that, no one's really interested in us, really, I've heard that as well. Can I come off that, Alan, for a minute? Can I go on to something else? I used to work in Grange over Sands. It's a lovely little place, I loved it. There's a lot of young people there. I know there's a lot of old people as well. I worked there in the 80s, and I worked in a hotel called the Crown Hotel on the top of the hill. And it was a good community hub, there was lots of things going on there. And I got up on YouTube a couple of weeks ago, and I was awfully surprised. They've made the Crown Hotel into apartments. Apparently it's the oldest building in Grange. It's on top of the hill. And what they've done is they've left the middle of the hotel, even the sitting room of the hotel's the same, even the telly's in the same place, yet they've surrounded it with modern blocks of apartments. And I find that awfully sad, really, it's a shame nobody could have took that hotel on and maybe kept it as a hotel, but as you know, all the hotels now are getting knocked down everywhere, or they're getting used for various things. But I was sorry to see that, really. I know somebody was complaining there's no banks in Grange anymore. They have to go to Kendal to do their banking. And as on your programme in the week, I believe in Cumbria as well, it's hard to find a post office, or it will be, in the villages, But, Grange, I was sorry to see that. Apartments. Everything's changing. It really is.
Well, it's just as well everything's changing, otherwise we'd all be travelling by horse and cart. But do have a good night. How do Danny?
Hello. You talked early on about the first time you were watching the TV. Yeah. What year was that be?
The first time I was watching what?
Television.
Well, the first time I watched it, I don't know. The first television we got, I think, was in 1964.
Oh, 1964. You mentioned something about rugby. You remember because you had an injury or something about rugby.
I was injured playing rugby.
Yeah, at that time in 64.
That was nothing to do with the telly. I think it was 64.
No, it wasn't. Didn't say that. I said that's what you remarked upon before. So it was 64. That time, was it? Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Did you say 1964? That time.
I may well have done, yes.
White TV. Black and white TV, then, was it?
We're making little progress here, but yes, it was black and white.
Yeah, well, you are making progress, actually. You said the Rome Olympics before. It wasn't the Rome Olympics in 64, that was 1960, when Cassius Clay became Muhammad Ali, won the gold medal. In 1964, Joe Frazier won the gold medal in the Tokyo Olympics when you were watching.
Well, it must have been 1960 then. It's a long time ago, you know.
1960, yeah. So you were 12 then.
Whenever it was, it was the Rome Olympics.
Well, you were born in 48, so it was the Rome.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, so you were 12. Yeah.
That's what your arithmetic tells me. I'm prepared to believe it.
Anyway, yeah. Well, that's what you said before. So anyway, I was born in 62. So my first memories on a little black and white telly, basically, was obviously kid things, but then a little bit later when I was my grandson's age, who's now 8, me and my brother, we used to watch Laurel and Hardy, the old black and white ones, Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah.
And we were both, hysterical laughing. And I thought, well, years later, I thought, my God, this is made, about 40 or 50 years before we were watching it. And anyway, as time went by, in my mid-20s, I finished work, and I'd call into a pub about 5 o'clock, or just after. And the whole place was quiet, a small place, watching Laurel and Hardy in black and white, the way obviously it was the old movie, you see. And everyone was hysterical laughing. So I think what you said before, wonderfully, about when you played Lady Madonna about the Beatles, and you said the songs they wrote and all that. Laurel and Hardy and that type of thing. They're timeless. They're just genius, isn't it? And telecommunications, the wonderful side of it, can do that. And that's what it's done, all that time span. And you still appreciate it,
Well, Laurel and Hardy were slapstick, weren't they? And slapstick is, it's timeless.
Yeah, when you say timeless, though, you see, you had others at that time who were doing that, but they were not genius like Laurel and Hardy. No more than the Beatles around them. You had great acts around the Beatles. You'd go and see them, you'd pay, see them in concerts, but nowhere near as good in one respect.
Yeah, the best ones. The best ones are always the ones, usually are the ones that survive in the memory, survive in repetition and the like, of course. The Beatles were geniuses. Laurel and Hardy were genius at what they did, and that's why that survives. That's why it still works.
Yeah, it's like George Formby. I mean, George Formby is still, to me, to this day, a genius, George Formby. He's just timeless, even though it was so many, many years ago.
Well, no, I disagree. I think if you showed a George Formby film to a younger person today, a 20-year-old or something, I don't think they would get the same appreciation out of they get from hearing the Beatles for the first time or seeing Laurel and Hardy for the first time. George Formby was the best at what he did, but I don't think what he did was historically memorable.
No, it wasn't. It was good when obviously he was playing the ukulele and the banjo. Yeah, wonderfully. They could appreciate that side, not the films. But the same token with Laurel and Hardy and the Beatles, it's a bit like Tommy Cooper. Even Tommy Cooper years ago, and Tommy Cooper just. Timeless because of the humour, what he had, and I think, as I say, from black and white telly to colour TV, I think it's great that little kids, years and years later, can relate to goodness.
Excellent. Good on you, Danny. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. Laurel and Hardy. Hey, getting the piano upstairs. What was the donkey thing? He had a donkey on a rope, lifting it up and down. I don't quite remember. It might have been a bit like the Battle of Bricks. Any road up. 0800 218 2255. midnight, here till 1. You're welcome to join us. How do, Ian?
Hello. Sorry for phoning you again. It's just people who were talking about the Second World War.
Mm-hmm.
And they've read books and watched films. I had a grandfather who actually served the front line, lost his mates. He was a decent bloke. He survived the war. He's a real decent man. And I don't think they should, go on all what's on film and what's on books. And my grandfather won medals. And the first thing he did when he received the medals was chucked them in the bin because he had lost his mate. And there's been many wars since then. It's not just Second World War. We have lots of wars, lots of troops fighting all over the world. It's ridiculous.
But warfare is ridiculous, isn't
Why
it?
don't people remember the blokes who fought in Afghanistan, the blokes who fought in Iraq, the blokes who fought in Kuwait?
Well, there is a difference between the localised wars that you've just referred to and something that engaged the whole nation for 5 years. That's a different thing. I'm not saying better or worse, but different. The whole of this country was at war. Food was rationed. The cities and towns were being bombed. People were dying within these shores. And I'm not diminishing what the fighters did in the campaigns you've just referred to. But when the war was on in Afghanistan, they were not people getting killed by it. They weren't bombing London or Liverpool or Manchester or Lancaster or where have you. So that's one difference. We weren't blockaded on food so that you could have, a slice of bacon once every fortnight, whether you needed it or not. So the whole nation was engaged in the war, whereas the more recent localised wars that you've referred to, the whole nation wasn't involved. So that's one major difference.
But the major difference is people who read books and watch films don't know what actually went on. I spoke to my grandfather who actually fought in the Second World War. Going on about the Second World War like you know it. You're 74 years old. Were you called up? You weren't even called up, were you?
No. But you say your grandfather was in the war, so also was my father and most of my uncles. So what you have related to you by your ancestor, I too have related by mine. And each of us...
People who serve today, people who lost legs and limbs in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Why don't people phone up about that? You keep going on about the Second World War.
I tried to explain to you, do you not recognise the difference between the whole nation being engaged in the act of war and a very small, by comparison, number of...
Are we all engaged in a war against Al-Qaeda?
No, we're not.
I know it's a different type of war. It's a very nasty war we're fighting now. But
there are no nice wars. We're not all engaged in it.
We are, because...
Okay, how? How many casualties... I don't know where you live, and don't bother telling me, but how many casualties of that war have there been in your city or your town?
I think been a few bombings in Manchester.
There have been... When you say a few...
I mean, Al-Qaeda, people walking into arenas with backpacks.
Yes, that's terrorism.
But that is a war. terrorism is war.
Well, that's your definition, and I'm not going to try and dissuade you from it.
But how do you know what a war is if you've never actually fought? Have you ever fought on the front line?
Well, my age group
Have you ever
was...
fought?
I will answer your question if you let me.
Wasn't called up, was it? Your age group wasn't called up for anything.
Which question do you want me to answer?
Both of them.
Okay, well, wait for the answer then. Your first question was, I ever fought in a front line? No, because there weren't front lines when I was a soldier, because war was fought and is still fought differently in the main. Was I called up? No, my age was wrong for it. I volunteered.
And when you were in the army, did you actually have to shoot a weapon?
Well, obviously you have to shoot a weapon. If you're asking me whether I had to shoot it at a person, I won't answer.
So do you ever work for the United Nations?
Work for them? What do you mean?
We're actually called up by the United Nations forces.
Well, I've never been called up. I was a volunteer. Are you asking me...
So you volunteered to go... So which front line were you on?
I think I've already told you, front lines didn't exist when I was a soldier. We didn't have trench warfare.
So you've never actually shot a weapon at another human being?
I didn't answer that, but you can make whatever guess you wish.
So you've never actually been involved in a conflict?
If that is what you wish to decide, then that is fine.
No, I'm asking a question. Have you been involved in a conflict?
I've told you, I told you, if you ask it 20 times, you will get the same answer. I will not tell you.
I've asked you 2 times.
And I said, if you ask me 20 times, I will not tell you.
Because you're not willing to admit that you've never done anything in your life.
If that is what you wish to interpret.
You're a
if you wish... Ian, good night. How do Aileen?
Yeah, just wanted to pick up on war. You know, once I went to the 11th, and that was the special anniversary, and they released all these poppies, one for every lost person in that Second World War. And the first, there was millions of poppies thrown out from the top of the roof, and the kids were catching them as they were coming down on the little prayer thing that were given out, you know, the little booklets for the songs sung and that. And basically what happened was, another year I went and it wasn't released like that, but people wear poppies. And I sat in the bus stop, I'd come out a little bit early, and I was sitting thinking, and in front of me opposite, I saw written, we will remember them, on a big screen. You know, that's what they always say. And, you know, all these people going past doing their shopping, and I know it was on the Sunday. I'm sure it was on the Sunday it was held. But they were still all doing their shopping. Basically, as I looked down from the bus stop where I was sitting, the rain was just starting to fall a little bit. And I saw, it looked like a poppy that was split into 2. You know, the way they split. And it was blowing up and blowing back down. And I watched these split poppies blowing up and down towards me, and I took a picture. I decided I was going to do a little film. I took a picture watching these people going past doing their shopping, and we always remember them. And then I knew the poppies. I thought, get them as well. You know, they were fluttering and dancing in this wind, and the raindrops were just starting to stain the pavement. And I saw them flutter past, and as I got up, because it takes me a while to get up, I got to the edge of the opening there, and I looked both up and down, and the poppies were gone. I don't know where they went. They disappeared. I think they were both part of the same poppy. But the thing is, no matter whether you die pauper or in the graves with the white stones that stand mute in the sand, or whether you have a big statue over your buds, just make sure you save your own soul and you can face God, because no one gives a damn in the end anyway. I just wanted to say that. That's irrelevant to war. Bye.
Okay. Thank you for saying it. if you so desire to hold that view, feel free. And there's some truth that people don't really care, except perhaps once a year at most. How do Arnold?
What you would, you say you go doctors on, I'm not joking, hypochondriacs. What does it actually mean, that word, on hypochondriacs in the doctors? Always in the doctors, nothing wrong with them.
Well, that's what it means. People who believe they are suffering from some illness when clearly they are not, and they're just seeking a kind of attention.
Yeah. I mean, Mum used to say a lot of hypocrites, churchgoers, a lot of hypocrites go to church, holier than thou. Hypocrites. You see them on a Sunday morning walking past the road. What would you say? How did Burnley win down against Aston Villa?
I've no idea.
Yeah. You follow rugby, don't you? Rugby league.
I watch such games if they're on television and I can be bothered. Following it is probably not the right thing.
Television, yeah. So are you actually a Wigan fan or Town? I sort of get it wrong, I don't know.
No.
Warrington.
I'm none of... I think I enjoy Warrington winning because I'm from Warrington, but I'm not that bothered.
Yeah. Where was Eddie Waring from? He's up and under, isn't it? It's a knockout.
He was from Leeds.
Oh, Leeds, yeah. Oh, Leeds Rhinos, isn't it? Leeds Rhinos.
It is now. It wasn't in Eddie Waring's day. It was just called Leeds.
Yeah. But Eddie Waring, Hull and OKR, Hull Kingston Rovers. Oh. And then Wakefield Wildcats. St Helens. Warrington Wires. Is it Warrington Wolves or Wires?
Well, they're still called the Wires by a lot of fans, but their proper name in Super League is Warrington Wolves.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Ellery Hanley. Remember him, Alan? Ellery Hanley.
I do.
Yeah. So some black people, I know in this day of prejudice and racism, but what was it about old people? I'm 60 next month. 60. So I have to live with it growing old, won't I? I was 18 in 1981, September 17. Anyway, how are we doing with the salary? You're on a salary at the moment, but you got to change to a pension. You get insurance when you're younger, like life insurance. Church or... Hey, you get a flight to Spain, Alan. In the old days, you'd pay down to Iberia from Manchester to Girona, North Spain, in Catalan. You'd get a flight for £70, £5 insurance. Remember the old gammon now, Alan? You go in a bucket, you pay £1.5, 5 pence tax. Well, I picked the winner out at the Ebor on Thursday. Wednesday, 3 o'clock at York, equilateral. I had a 12-1. Anyway, I'll have a check well, cheeseburger.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed your tea. Good on you, Arnold. 0800 218 2255 to join us. Getting on for midnight. We're here till 1. You are more than welcome. Is the Cause, and their breath. There you are. The Cause. That's all I got. 0800 218 2255. If you wish to join us, that's good. We're here until 1 o'clock, which means you've got just less than half an hour to get involved. How do Gavin?
Evening.
Evening.
Good evening. Hope you're well.
I am. Thank you.
I was just ringing. Recently in the news, there's been U.S. congressional hearings about UFOs. And it struck me, apparently the powers that be, whoever they might be, are keeping secrets about whether there's been contact from non-human beings. Whether they keep it quiet because they think the world's not ready for that particular news. Do you think the world's ready to hear that there could be other beings? I'm not suggesting aliens necessarily, because nobody knows. But what would happen to society? Do you reckon? Would people be able to cope with that sort of news?
Your question is quite complicated. Your first question was, are people ready to know that there might be other beings? Well, they already know that there might be. Logic says there might be. There are billions and billions and billions of other planets and stars. So, statistically, one would argue that there almost certainly will be. Then you said whether they were ready to be told that they were and they've arrived on Earth, or whether we're ready to know that or not. I have to say, I have no idea. I don't believe any have arrived on Earth, but they might have done.
Well, it's just some of the evidence at the hearing is quite compelling. When you've got US Navy pilots that become face to face with craft that they describe as being beyond their physical ability. But they're not saying they're necessarily aliens or extraterrestrial. They're talking potentially interdimensional, so they're not sure where they're from or what they are, but they're convinced they're not Chinese or Russian.
No, I'm afraid I'm a hole in the hand sort of person. If I can't put my hole in the hand, I don't believe it. You might understand the biblical reference. I hope you do.
Yeah. No, I just wondered whether yourself or some of the listeners how they would cope with that sort of news if that was the case. That, you know, if President Biden suddenly did a broadcast, hopefully.
It's hard to say how a person would cope, because we don't know what we're being invited to cope with. I mean, we've got half the people on the south coast going berserk because too many human beings are arriving over the channel. So how the hell they'd cope if there were extraterrestrial beings arriving from anywhere, I don't know. So it's difficult. So we have racism, we have xenophobia, we have innocent border protection, and we have fear of the unknown. So if the unknown became known, perhaps we'd be able to cope with it. So I think the whole gamut of emotions would be involved if we suddenly learned that there were actually spaceships that had landed and been taken into custody and are in that bit of the United States where they're all supposed to be hiding. So I don't know how the people would cope. All differently, I guess.
Yes, I think there's probably a good reason why they might keep such things quiet.
Yeah, but if a strange ship arrived right now and landed off the coast of Britain, let's say off the coast of Blackpool, and then a big platform came out to the promenade, and a strange-looking creature, maybe with 5 legs, doesn't matter, came over and started handing out pieces of gold, I reckon people would put up with that. But if he came over and started eating children, we'd be less pleased. So it depends on what these extraterrestrial beings are going to do.
Yes, let's hope they're friendly.
You know, let us hope. It's just like, you know, people are dead set against, not all people by any means, but people are dead set against immigration. Our government is dead set against immigration. But if you've got 10 million quid in the bank, you're welcome. So it depends. Well, yeah. It depends on the alien and what they have to offer.
Yeah, most people are against illegal migration. I think everybody is quite happy with migration because it benefits the country. Migration is a different matter.
Have you forgotten Brexit?
No, I haven't forgotten Brexit.
Do you think Brexit didn't have any xenophobic elements to it?
Oh, no doubt there was people where it was a major concern. People, I think, were against free movement within Europe when we've got now shortages and queues and
now we have this terrible situation where we'd love free movement, wouldn't we, provided they came over here and were prepared to work in our hospitals as they were doing, and pick our fruit as they were doing, and pick our peas. Well, not peas, they're done by machines, but pick our vegetables as they were doing. People would be glad of it.
Well, yeah, that's the point system, isn't it? That's where if we've got a shortage in a
many years ago, I went to an event, I suppose you'd call it a party, at a farm in the Midlands that was basically an orchard, a dirty great big orchard, and it made cider. Well, there was some people that I knew, and we went to that, and we were sat around this great big log fire outside because it was the middle of summer and it was all very hokey-dory. And over in the distance there were about 10 caravans. And I said to the person whose property it was, I didn't know you had a caravan site. They said, we haven't. Those are the seasonal workers and they're having their own party right now as they do every Saturday night. And they don't have any anymore. The orchard's shut. The apples fall on the floor.
Yeah, and part of the reason is the cost of UK labour, I guess.
Well, yeah, the cost of UK labour, but also the lack of human beings. There just aren't enough.
Well, yeah, but what do we? How many? We're changing the subject slightly, but I mean.
Well, no, you were talking about how we would cope with other species of what sort arriving, and I think it would depend. If it was going to cost us money, a lot of people would be livid. If they were going to give us money, they'd welcome them with open arms. Like I said, if the spaceship landed just off the coast of Blackpool and put a dirty great big sort of walkway to the promenade and walked out, and when it got to the promenade and took their 5 legs and 8 eyes to the promenade but used their one hand to hand out pieces of gold, I think they'd be welcomed.
Yeah, so if they were friendly, most people would be happy to see them.
No, not friendly, that's not enough. If they're going to give us stuff, they'll be welcome.
Yeah. As long as they're not seeking asylum.
If they're going to cost us stuff, we'd drive them out with sticks if we could.
Yeah.
Good on you, Gavin. The interesting picture I've got in my mind now is a 5-legged, 7-eyed creature with one hand running back across to his spaceship because people are after him like a hue and cry. But Gavin, thank you for giving me that thought. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. I do surprise myself on how stupid I am sometimes, don't worry. I'll do Brian.
I do, Jerry.
I'll do Brian. I don't know who Jerry is, but hello anyway.
What do you think of weather this year, this summer?
I've not had a lot of thought about it, really.
Summer. Oh, please can you think about it?
I missed a month of it, so I'm not really a good measurer.
What do you think about August weather?
It's been all right, I suppose.
I think it's been terrible.
Right.
What did you think about June weather?
It was very nice, but I was in Canada.
What about July?
I don't really remember the weather much. I don't give a lot of concern to the weather. What was it like? I don't remember.
That means it was shit, doesn't it?
If you say so. I mean, I'm glad you can tell me what I think rather than...
Well, if it were good, you would have remembered.
Why?
You would have said you had top off. Sunbathing well.
Top off?
You would have had top off, sunbathing well, and you would have told me.
I don't sunbathe.
Well, you do. When you're walking, you're sunbathing, aren't you?
Well, I'm sunbathing now, then.
Well, you're not walking now.
That's true, you're right. You got me there.
In comparison to other years, do you think it's a bad summer?
I don't remember the other years. I don't pay much heed to the weather.
So do you think it's been nice weather?
I think I've answered that already. I don't pay much heed to the weather. It's just weather.
What if it snowed in July? Would you pay attention if it snowed in July or not?
Depends where I was.
Well, you must know if you've been sunbathing well or not this year.
Well, as I said, Brian, I don't sunbathe, so no, I haven't been sunbathing this year, or for that matter, any others.
Have you had vest top on this year or not?
Have I had what?
Vest top on.
Vest top?
Yes.
What is vest top?
With no sleeves on arms.
Oh, you mean a T-shirt?
Yes.
Have I had a T-shirt on this year? I have one on now.
With no sleeves?
Well, I won't say no sleeves, because T-shirts do have sleeves. But they're not very long.
It's not been a good summer, and you should admit it.
Fine, I admit it.
How well do you admit it?
As well as I will shut you up. I'll do Balladay.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Allan Beswick. Yeah, I want to start talking about... Do you remember last week, or this week, just gone, there was the BRICS Nations thing in South Africa. Do you remember that?
There was a big meeting in South Africa, yes.
Okay. I want to put it in context of this so-called New World Order thing coming along, and the role of which they want other nations to play, because some other nations have now said they'll have e-currencies. Some have already started it, some haven't. I think Britain and America, they've got something called Cash App. That's only be to use between them. But then other countries like Germany said they're industrializing because they can't. I think they say because they're blaming the war in Ukraine for it, so that certain people are not selling stuff abroad as they would do because of all the sanctions all over the place. And this BRICS nation thing might be bringing stuff that it's going to bring. Although they're saying it's not going to, we're not going to see it immediately, because they want to get their own currency, and they say they're going to back it up by all their resources. And we talk about de-dollarization, which almost all of them want to go to, because the African nations as well, they'll say, oh, you know what, we've had it with America, we want to go de-dollarization, basically. And it's not looking good for the dollar, to be honest, but it's not going to go down that fast. But the political side of it is what I'm really worried about, because now in Africa they've got two really hot spots going on at the same time. So which is the one that's going to kick it off? Because someone actually was complaining, saying today, that it might lead to World War III and it could kick off from there. And I'm saying, well, I know we said this last week, I'm saying, wow, what are we playing with? Because it seems as if we're all playing with the whole world economic to start off, because that's where it kicks off. I mean, one thing leads to double. So which domino falls first, and how does it begin to snowball?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't know how it begins to snowball. You're correct in that some of the emerging nations, I believe they're called, and also China and Russia, are concerned at the fact that most international trade, even between countries that aren't involved at that moment with America, even between those countries, the international trade is generally carried out in dollars, because it's the dominant currency on our planet. And yes, a lot of nations are questioning why that should be, particularly as the fiscal strength of the world is moving, some might say inexorably, towards or away from Britain, Europe, United States. But it's a very slow process, because even if the African nations wish to create a universal currency for them, it is still the fact that the biggest markets presently are America and Europe.
Yeah.
So
I heard one.
You will still have to sell your stuff to America and Europe, and America's not about to say, well, okay, you can sell to us, but we're not going to... it's okay if you don't want to use dollars, you can use the Africa pound or the guilder, whatever.
Yeah, I had there's something else I have to say. I don't know how this one plays out. They said that at one point in time, the Western world has said to Africa, right, okay, you can grow all these crops and sell those to us, but you can't grow your own food, and we want you to buy your food from us. I thought, wait a minute, is somebody talking out of their ass? So they can't grow their own food. So I said, no wonder Nigeria used to buy a lot of rice off America, because the Nigerians liked the Uncle Ben's rice. They had their own, but they were buying Uncle Ben's rice. And I'm thinking, are these people mad? Can't they just go and eat their own rice? No. I mean, I used to think that all the rice in America was sold in Nigeria at one point, to be honest. And that was just the mentality of certain people that, oh, you know what, we don't care as long as we can afford it, just buy it. Just buy it. And then now they're thinking, we're not going to do that. We want to do stuff for ourselves, especially the African nations sitting down saying, well, look, it's not that no more. We got to sit down here and talk about what we really want in this world, and if we got something going for ourselves, then we'll come back and deal with the rest of the world. Which I'm saying, that's what you should have been doing all along.
But there is a problem, isn't there? The problem is, and this will sound almost racist, and I'll just have to cope with that, but the truth is, if you want to trade with an African country, you have to trade with the leaders of that African country, who might not be there a fortnight later.
I totally agree with you.
I mean, South Africa, in the days of apartheid, South Africa had vile but nonetheless stable government. Now South Africa, democratically, is a dog's breakfast.
Yeah.
It's riddled with corruption.
I'm going to tell you a story. I don't know what this bank was. This bank was doing business in Nigeria, in what we now call the Second Republic. That was when the civil government came back in the 80s.
Tell me the tale. Don't give me the political history, as I'll doze off.
Okay, so what happened was they overthrew the government, and then this bank was going to go into trouble. So they went to Thatcher and said, could she bail them out? And Thatcher said to them point blank, no, we can't bail you out, because when it was all good for you over there, you never said anything. Now you're in a fiscal, you now want us to bail you out? We can't bail you out.
Well, like I say, you know, you want to trade with Africa, you're trading with a moving target in the main. And that offers no stability. So let us say they get rid of the dollar, which rightly or wrongly is a stable country, and replace it with the African guilder. That's going to be good, isn't it?
Yep.
Well, we've got a stable country. Oh, no, we can't. Well, we did have on Tuesday, but it's Thursday now. Come on. You know. The reality is they couldn't organise an orgy in a brothel in most African countries.
Yeah, you're right. And we start with Nigeria, it's my country, right? They couldn't organize anything. I mean, even their president now, they don't know who he used to start off with, and he's not. They said he's not legitimate, and basically saying, but he won't take us into a war. They're charming. Anyway, Mr. Beswick, I'll let you go.
Okay. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. Still time if you fancy it. It's getting on for 5 to midnight, so there's a couple of minutes. If you want to join us, you would be more than welcome. Even at this late stage, we don't mind. We just rattle along. The newspapers, Sunday morning newspapers, The Observer, Nadine Dorries has finally decided to chuck in her hat at her seat, which means the Tories have now, everybody has now got a by-election. It was a safe seat, whether it will still be. Apparently, she was trying to find out why she wasn't given a seat in the House of Lords. The only answer I can come up with, without any research at all, is she didn't bloody well deserve one. Sunak faces fresh conflict of interest row on the India trade talks, and universities have cut the student working week to 3 days. Cut it to 3. Doesn't that sound like they've trebled it? The Sunday Express, the Prime Minister, life to mean life for the vilest killers, crime crackdown to make people feel safe. Well, it's really working with me. Rishi says, this is personal. I have 2 young daughters. Right. Well, as long as you're making laws on the basis of your own family, Prime Minister, that's fine. I thought you might want to make laws for the nation rather than keep your 2 girls safe. Never mind, you can't even keep people off your roof. The Sunday Times, I love driving, and if ULEZ didn't work, I would have scrapped it, said Khan. Good. Dorries resigns at last with a Sunak blast, and damning email told of chaos on the Letby ward. All sorts of stories coming out about what went on at the Countess of Chester Hospital. The Telegraph tomorrow, the Sunday Telegraph that is, Reeves, no wealth tax under Labour. Yeah. No university fees either. Oh, hang on. There were, weren't they? Oh, never mind. At least they've said there'll be no wealth tax under Labour. So we now know there won't be. NHS kangaroo courts risk another Letby. Outcry over hostile civil servants' new job. And ministers threaten the end of the road for the Khan plan to charge per mile. The Mail on Sunday, secret Labour plan to charge drivers by the mile. I could have done those in a different order, couldn't I? Much more sensible one. Millions of drivers are in danger of being hit by a new pay-per-mile road tax under Labour plans seen by the Mail on Sunday. Nadine Dorries, the most no-holds-barred political resignation letter you'll ever read. Can't wait for that. Phil plans a telly return. Good luck with that, mate. Presumably advertising second-hand cars again. I don't know. And the Sunday Mirror, Phil's comeback, Scofie. That's his nickname, but also it fits between the 2 heads that are on the... Yeah. Schofield meets with a television channel, but which one? If it begins with a 9, it's knackered. Holds talk for tell-all book. And Holly gives her evidence to the inquiry. Letby's boss get out of jail free card, family's anger at the executive's cushy retirement, and the Sun on Sunday, well, you've got to have a laugh, haven't you? The Sun on Sunday met cops hit by hackers, told you about that a few moments ago. And the Daily Star on Sunday, Robin Hood's in the Nud as birdwatchers warned of Sherwood Forest tonight at 10. Ta-ra.
BBC News at 1 o'clock. This is Chris Barrow. The Conservative MP and former Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries has formally resigned from the Commons with a scathing attack on the Prime Minister. She accused him of demeaning his office by whipping up a public frenzy against her. Ms Dorries was unhappy that she hadn't been given a seat in the House of Lords as part of Boris Johnson's resignation honours list. Police in Florida say a gunman armed with an assault rifle has shot dead 2 men and a woman in Jacksonville. All of the victims are black. At a news conference, the Jacksonville sheriff, T.K. Waters, said the attacker was a white man in his early 20s.
This shooting was racially motivated, and he hated black people. I want to be very clear that there is absolutely no evidence that the shooter is part of any large group. We know that he acted completely alone. The weapons that the shooter used today are a Glock and an AR-15 style rifle. This is a dark day in Jacksonville's history. Any loss of life is tragic, but the hate that motivated the shooter's killing spree adds an additional layer of heartbreak.
The Metropolitan Police says it's taken security measures after being made aware of a breach of the IT system of one of its suppliers. The company involved had access to names, ranks, photos, vetting levels and pay, but not the addresses and phone numbers of officers. Scotland Yard says it's working with the firm to see if the data has been leaked. The matter has been reported to the National Crime Agency. Spain's World Cup winning coach Jorge Vilda has criticised the suspended Football Federation president Luis Rubiales, calling the moment he kissed the captain, Yevgeny Hermoso, inappropriate and unacceptable. Hermoso stressed on Friday she did not consent to the kiss. Guy Hedgecoe has more.
The controversial kiss he gave Jenny Hermoso continues to cause a major social and political backlash. The government is taking action in a bid to remove Mr Rubiales from office via a national sports tribunal. He has accused Ms Hermoso of lying when she said the kiss was not consensual. However, following Mr Rubiales' suspension, the Spanish Football Federation deleted a statement from its website accusing her of misrepresenting reality.
Tens of thousands of people have gathered in Washington, D.C. to mark the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights March, which culminated in Martin Luther King Jr. giving his famous I Have a Dream speech. The pivotal moment is being remembered by members of his family, along with campaigners who've gathered in the city.
Until we get back to all men being created equal, then there's always a need to change. So the changes that are taking place, they're just not enough. Every one of us humanely treated. Don't make those same mistakes. Don't make that slow change. Make an immediate change.
And the world heavyweight boxing champion, Ukraine's Alexander Usyk, has retained his world titles against Britain's Daniel Dubois in Poland. The fight ended with a knockout in the 9th round. And that's the BBC News. It's 3 minutes past 1.
One of the biggest art...